Members' motion with no legislative effect. Mr. Frankie YICK's motion on building an elderly-friendly living environment. 3 members will move amendments to the motion. This council will proceed to a joint debate on the motion and the amendments. Later, I will first call upon Mr. Frankie YICK to speak and move the motion. Then we will call upon Mr. Tang Ka-piu, Stanley Lee, and Mr. CHEUNG to speak in sequence, but they may not move the amendments at this stage. The joint debate now begins. Members who wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. I now call upon Mr. Frankie YICK to speak and move the motion. Mr. Frankie YICK. President. President, I move that the motion as printed on the agenda be passed. President, before I speak, I declare interest. According to the WHO, the definition for the population, I am categorized as a young old. Subject to the passage of the motion and the adoption of my proposal by the government, I will be a beneficiary. I think some members may be curious why a member from the transport and maritime sector would move this motion. Now, at a recent meeting of the Liberal Party, there was a group of young Liberal Party members, including district councillors, debated this topic, and they think the government must pay attention to this issue. That's why I moved today's motion. President, there is a rising trend of aging population in the world. Now, those above the age of 60 will increase from 10% in 2023 to 16% in 2026. In Hong Kong, the situation will be more egregious. Now, from 1.2 million people, the age population will grow to 36% in the future. Now, the WHO predicts Hong Kong to be one of the oldest cities in the future. Now, with advancements in medical technology, more people are living longer. Now, in 2023, the lifespan for male and females were 83 and 88. 7 years increase, an increase of 7 years. Now, by 2053, the mean lifespan will become 90. Now, in 2017, the average age was 46.3 years old. Now, it shows that there is an aging trend of population. Now, back in 2007, the WHO has laid down the Global Age-Friendly Cities, a guide covering 8 areas: indoor layout, respect, civic participation, employment, information exchange, and social and healthcare. Now, over the past 20 years, the Hong Kong SAR government has launched many initiatives to improve the living environment for the elderly people. But with this rapid trend of aging, we must revisit our urban planning and other ancillary facility planning to meet the need of the tremendous age population in the future. Now, the elderly people are always worried about falling because of their deteriorating sense of balancing. That's why they are afraid to go out. Now, in every year, 1 in every 5 elderly people would suffer from a fall. Now, this would lead to bone fracture and other more serious injuries. They need to be hospitalized after a fall. If we can create a barrier-free environment, we can encourage more elderly people to engage in social activities. This will be beneficial to their mental health as well. To encourage more elderly people to join social activities, many countries and places are building elderly-friendly walking environments. For example, in Tokyo, the government has lengthened the green phase for zebra crossing. And also, more than 80% of the underground stations have been equipped with lifts. Now, in Singapore, there are always sheltered walkway linking public transport interchanges and shopping malls. This will prevent falling incidents in rainy weather. We can learn from these measures. Now, we still have lots of room for improvements in terms of elderly-friendly walking environments. For example, there are still lots of places, for example, the Yuan estates in the South District, there are only staircases. So for these places, the government should equip them with barrier-free facilities, for example, escalators or lifts. Now, the most scandalous thing is we have very slippery tiles for our pavements. Now, with heavy rainfall, the soil would be eroded and the tiles would be uneven, and it increases the risk of fall. Now, according to the HA, there are tens of thousands of elderly people who need to be hospitalized because of fall. Many of them were tripped over by the uneven tiles on the pavement. Now, the Liberal Party understands that using tiles to pave our pavements is convenient for repairing underground utilities. However, after repaving, with our bad weather, the tiles are prone to become uneven. It will add to the risk of falling of elderly people. And also, with aging population, we have more and more double old families. More and more elderly people are caring for other elderly people. We can always see elderly couples in the streets. Now, the uneven pavement is very dangerous for wheelchair-bound elderly people. We must come up with an improved plan, for example, using more elderly-friendly paving materials to ensure that the ground is even. Now, the traffic lights only display the faces in colors. There is no indication of the remaining time left. Now, some elderly people fall because they are in a hurry to cross the road. Now, in December 2023, the Transport Department piloted the use of traffic lights with a time count. Now, the Liberal Party supports using more traffic lights with a countdown to ensure that elderly people can cross the road safely. Now, the MTR is one of the most popular transport modes in Hong Kong. The newer stations are all barrier-free, but that's not the case for the older stations. Some of them only have staircases. This is very challenging for the mobility of elderly people, especially during peak hours. The risk of fall is high. Now, for wheelchair-bound elderly people, despite the barrier-free facilities in some stations, staff members' help is still required. It is inconvenient. The government should collaborate with the MTRC to equip all stations with lifts and enhance the barrier-free facilities so that elderly people will not have to rely on the help of station staff. Now, there is more and more need for elderly-free public transport. Now, the government has been encouraging the franchise bus companies to use elderly-friendly buses with a low entrance. Now, there are some 300 red public minibuses in idle. Can the government encourage operators to modify these red public minibuses to cater for the need of wheelchair-bound elderly people? This also promotes the development of the silver economy and encourage the elderly people to participate in social activities. Now, taxis are also an important means of transport for elderly people, especially when attending follow-up consultation. Now, because of no drop-off zone, some elderly people can only be dropped off from taxis a street away from their destination. Now, since taxis are point-to-point mode of transport, the government should relax the restriction of no drop-off zone, especially near hospitals, so that patients can get to the destination easily. Now, the scope involving elderly-friendly living environments is huge. With my speaking time, I can only focus on the mobility aspect. Now, in a moment, my party members will move other proposals in terms of other aspects. And also, I would like to pick members' brains on how we can promote an elderly-friendly living environment. Thank you. And I put the question is, Mr. Frankie YICK's motion be passed. Mr. Tang Ka-piu.
Thank you, President. Our country in 2021 published the State Council Strengthening the Work on the Elderly in the New Era report. That's the first point of my amendment. Second, we have an aging population and more elderly are living alone. That's why we need to have a 4-tier support system. We should not just rely on social workers or the community care team. We need neighborhood support. We need support from the neighbors and the relatives of the elderly person. Third, we think that the government should strive to eliminate age discrimination. Some employers said that it's difficult for them to take out insurance for senior employees. That's not the truth. How can we rectify such a situation? I hope that the administration will give a thought to it. I'd like to talk about CHEUNG technology. We have technology to safeguard safety of the elderly at homes, so that they will not be left alone when they, say, fall. I hope that the administration will include these safety standards into their plans when they are building rental housing. As a next step, I hope that the administration will include more advanced type of CHEUNG technology. We have to include more devices of low cost so that the elderly will not pass away when they suffer from any accidents at home. The FTU and myself have been trying to look into the issue and identify more CHEUNG technology devices. We have smart water meters, we have smart toilets in the mainland. If there's no motion detected in the household and if the door has not been opened, water has not been used for 2 days, for example, notification would be sent to the relevant authorities. We can, say, for example, install just a light at the doors so that the elderly's neighbors or relatives would know that the person has not moved over, say, a few hours or a few days. If accidents happened, then the relatives or neighbors can call the authorities. In Japan and Hong Kong, we've seen many elderly who pass away because they suffer from accidents without any help. The FTU, together with the CLP in 2002, have been working together to install water, electricity meters at people's homes. If the applicant for these meters are elderly singleton, then they can have 2 relatives as the person to receive the notification. Say, for example, in the water or gas meters has not been used for 48 hours, then the relatives will be notified. And if they're notified, perhaps they will make a call to the elderly, and if no one answers the calls, then they will take follow-up action. Second, I used to be a member of the housing authority at Wanghon Estate. I've been advocating for the installation of sensors at people's door. If the door has not been opened for 48 hours, then a message will be sent to a relatives nominated by the relevant elderly who live at the household. These CHEUNG technology is of low cost and high effectiveness. Mr. Stanley Lee. Thank you, President. I speak on the motion of building an elderly-friendly living environment. I thank Mr. Frankie YICK for moving the motion. The last time we discussed elderly-related issue was about the $2 scheme. In Mr. Frankie YICK's motion, he said that we have to meet the elderly needs for social activities, enhance the quality of life for the elderly and their happiness, and promote the development of the silver economy. The DAB have established a alliance on the development of silver economy together with a group of scholars. By developing silver economy, we can improve the quality of life for the elderly. And this is why I move my amendments. As I look into the development of silver economy, I think that it can be categorized into 3 different categories. First, silver financing. Second, silver standards. And third, silver services or products. After developing these 3 areas, then we can build an elderly-friendly living environment. As Mr. YICK said, we have to offer, say, convenient transportation service for the elderly so that they can go to hospital more easily. We have to develop silver industries so that we can promote elderly living. We can also integrate tourism, healthcare, by developing more types of products to meet the needs of the elderly. I moved a motion on cross-boundary elderly care, and that was supported by all of the members. Now, we hope to encourage elderly to be able to retire all around the world. We need to also have standards. Because without it, then it's more difficult for the elderly to go around the city. The administration earlier rolled out a soft meal scheme and a guideline of care food standard. Regarding the areas on living, commuting, if we can have standards for these areas, then we can improve the living quality of the elderly. Because by setting standards on the materials of pavement, for example, then it will be easier for the elderly to commute. Third, we have to promote intergenerational culture at workplace so that there will be succession of experience, and we can eliminate the problem of retirement of experienced employees. If elderly can work, then they can rely less on social services. Apart from improving public environment to make them more elderly friendly, we have to make sure that they are able to secure a place that is the best for them. So for green financing, standard setting, all these are how we can improve the lives for elderly people. I think that different government departments should work together to develop these areas. We have to consolidate resources. Apart from improving infrastructures and hardware, we also have to develop a software so that we can build a better environment for the elderly and develop silver economy. Mr. Tommy Chang. Mr. Deputy, regarding the motion on building an elderly-friendly living environment moved by Mr. YICK. Well, I moved an amendment to it, and I asked the government to formulate policies and allocate resources to promote soft meals in order to address the needs of the elderly and enhance support for carers. We have an aging population in Hong Kong, and it's more and more important, therefore, for us to develop silver economy, which have to encourage more elderly to go out and dine together with their families and to promote silver economy. On the design of elderly-friendly menus and promoting soft meals, we have to allocate resources to them. For small and medium restaurants, they may not have enough financial resources for that. I hope that the government can launch a subsidy scheme to encourage the sector to participate in the sector. With the government support, then the restaurants can seize these opportunities by expanding their client sources. Many Chinese restaurants have rolled out soft meals for people with swallowing difficulties. Restaurants can include soft meals into a package or lunch menus because many people visit their parents, their grandparents at care homes. If the restaurants do not offer soft meals, then the elderly people can join their family to go out and dine. I also hope that the government will enhance support for carers. We have many elderly caring for their elderly partners. For senior carers, if we can encourage them to dine out once in a while, then that will alleviate their stress. We can also encourage the restaurants to widen their doors so that wheelchair users can enter. And we can also introduce, for example, soft meals into the menus. At the same time, we have to offer social activities and resources for carers. We have to create a carer-friendly environment. Voluntary groups can be formed to offer support to carers, say, for example, 2 hours a day, so that carers can take a break. Lastly, starting from the first day of the Chinese New Year, we have been working with the government, including Maxim, MX, McDonald's, Cafe de Carol. We have rolled out restaurants. Well, we've rolled out menus with meals of $25, including soft meals for the elderly. This is an idea of the Chief Secretary for Administration, and it was very popular. This month, to celebrate the 28th anniversary of the reunification, we rolled out a meal of $15. We distributed breakfast coupons for people. 6 restaurants participated. We distributed 130,000 breakfast coupons. On the 1st of October, the National Day, we're going to offer a $15 tea coupons so that more restaurants will participate. The caring restaurant scheme. Pizza Huts will also participate, so altogether we're going to have 7 participants to the caring restaurant scheme. NGOs and the social welfare departments are responsible for distributing the coupons so that elderly and their carers can go out together. This motion is about building an elderly-friendly living environment. I think that my suggestions are conducive to such a goal. I hope that the administration will follow up on the member suggestions. Thank you.
Secretary for Labour and Welfare. Mr. Deputy, I thank the mover, Mr. Frankie YICK, the amenders, Mr. Bill Tang, Mr. Stanley Lee, and Mr. Tommy CHEUNG. The motion gives us a platform to express and exchange views on building an elderly-friendly living environment. In the face of global population aging, the State Council has promulgated the opinions of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the State Council on strengthening the work on the elderly in the new era, providing planning and guidance for enhancing the well-being of the elderly. Having consulted with the Development Bureau, Housing Bureau, Transport and Logistics Bureau, Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, Innovation and Technology and Industry Bureau, Health Bureau, and the Home Affairs Department, I will outline the policy initiatives here. In terms of urban planning, regarding land planning and urban design, the Development Bureau has incorporated elderly-friendly elements into land planning studies, formulation of planning standards, and design of public space, public facilities, and buildings to meet the policy needs of an elderly-friendly living environment. In terms of public housing, the HA Housing Authority has applied the concept of universal design, such as non-slip floor tiles in kitchens and bathrooms, and larger switches and doorbell buttons in new public housing units. The Housing Bureau launched the Wellbeing Design Guide in 2024, in which the concept of age-friendliness focuses on the needs of the elderly to age in place. Examples are the provision of leaning benches in elevators or lobbies and handrails in long corridors. The HA has progressively incorporated the Wellbeing Design Guide into public housing projects under construction. For existing estates, they will incorporate suitable designs in the improvement works. On the use of technology, since April this year, the HA has launched a pilot scheme in Wenhon Estate in Kwun Tong and Sheung Estate in Ho Man Tin, where there is a large number of elderly tenants. Sensors are installed at the main doors of the flats of the elderly who participate in the scheme, so that designated family members and friends can keep track of the movement of the elderly entering and leaving the flats. Support will be provided in a timely manner when needed. In addition, we have installed smart fall detection systems in accessible toilets in some estates on a pilot basis to detect falls, fainting, or prolonged stay inside the toilet. The government is also committed to establishing elderly-friendly mobility. We continue to take forward the scheme of provision of cover to walkway to build cover for pedestrian walkways leading to public transport facilities and public hospitals. In addition, the government has launched the Universal Accessibility Program in August 2012 to retrofit barrier-free access facilities at pedestrian walkways. As at the end of June this year, we have completed about 60% of the 380 or so projects and are pressing ahead with the remaining ones that are under construction or planning. The Transport Department has been working closely with public transport operators to provide a barrier-free and accessible public transport system for the elderly and people in need to travel safely, comfortably, and conveniently. Aging in place as the core with institutional care as backup is the government's policy direction on elderly care. At present, frail elderly people assessed to be suitable for community and/or residential care services under the Standardized Care Need Assessment Mechanism for Elderly Services may choose to receive subsidized home-based or center-based care services. These include nursing care, rehabilitation exercises, meals, for example, soft meals, and carer support services, etc. In 24-25, about 26,000 elderly people have benefited from the services. Eligible frail elderly people can also apply for Community Care Service Voucher Scheme for the elderly. The voucher scheme allows elderly people to choose services provided by eligible service units under the money follows the user or co-payment modes. It can be flexibly mixed with the home-based and center-based service packages. As at the end of March this year, about 12,000 elderly people are receiving community care services using the vouchers. To enhance the quality of life and sense of well-being of the elderly in the community, a total of 452 district services and community care teams for short, in the 18 districts, have been visiting elderly households and households in need. As at the end of June this year, The care teams have visited about 530,000 households, providing about 76,000 visits for simple maintenance and cleaning, Chinese medicine consultations, or other support services. Keeping the elderly active brings huge benefits to their physical and mental health. The government will continue to actively promote active aging, including the Elder Academy scheme, the Opportunities for the Elderly project, and other measures to encourage lifelong learning and community integration. In terms of support for carers, we have just launched a pilot scheme under which the Hospital Authority will notify the Social Welfare Department, SWD's hotline and relevant welfare service units when carers with high risks are admitted to hospitals, so that they can proactively contact the high-risk families concerned to find out what they need and provide them with emergency assistance, such as respite service or meal delivery. We've also consolidated the household information of the Housing Department and that of the Elderly Social Welfare Service users under the SWD to identify singletons and couples living in public rental housing and carers of the elderly and persons with disabilities not receiving care or support services. The care teams are tasked to visit these households to show care and let them know that support services such as emergency alarm system is available. With the demographic changes in Hong Kong, the silver hair market is growing rapidly, and the demand for elderly products and services is expanding. In last year's policy address, the Chief Executive announced the setting up of a working group on promoting silver economy to encourage the business sector to capitalize on the opportunities brought about by the new demography, to inject vitality into our economy, and to enhance the quality of life of the elderly in different aspects. The working group has announced 30 measures covering 5 areas, namely promoting silver consumption, developing silver industries, promoting silver quality assurance, promoting silver financial and protection arrangements, and unleashing silver productivity. Many of these are closely related to the development of an elderly-friendly living environment. The ITIB, Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, is committed to enhancing Hong Kong's innovation and technology ecosystem and supporting the development of industries in different areas, including Zhejiang technology. In this regard, the ITIB has been actively encouraging public R&D centers to support the commercialization of projects relating to Zhejiang technology. We also encourage R&D centers to conduct technology exchanges and collaborative research with overseas and local centers, as well as to participate in and organize seminars and technology exhibitions, etc., to promote the development of technology in different fields. I will listen to members and give a consolidated reply at the end. Thank you.
Mr. Martin Liao. Deputy President, Hong Kong is now an aging society. By 2043, every 1 in 3 persons will be an elderly person. We must focus on meeting their needs. Through promoting the development of the silver industry and provide more targeted services and products, we can enhance the living standard of elderly people. It will also be a new growth point for our economy. Deputy President, building an elderly-friendly living environment relates to living, eating, mobility, and social life. Now, we must meet elderly's needs in terms of their clothing needs. While the catering industry can provide more soft meal menus to cater for the needs of elderly people with swallowing difficulties, and also the food they provide should be of low sugar and salt content. At home, we need to help elderly people to modify their home to prevent falling risk. But the market doesn't understand the need of elderly people properly. Products lag behind the changing needs of elderly people. Now, there are surveys showing that the satisfactory rates of people above the age of 50 about the elderly friendliness of local shops is lower than 25%. Many elderly people think that it is not easy to find products suitable to them in shopping malls. That's because shopping malls operate on commercial principles and they focus on young people rather than elderly consumers. 30 measures have been launched by the government to promote the silver economy. The government has been taking lead in diverting the market's attention to elderly people's needs. That's the correct direction. In the long run, we need to harness the power of the market through policy incentives as well as tax concessions. We need to broaden the mindset of entrepreneurs. We need to encourage collaboration between NGOs and the research and the industry. Now, the Jockey Club has a program collaborating with universities. The survey they conduct help the industry to tap the needs of elderly people more accurately through award and other incentives. It encourages more businesses to modify their operational model to suit elderly people. Now, solitude is a mental health risk for elderly people. Now, the WHO includes employment and social activities into the 8 categories in the Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide. Employment and suitable social activities would help maintain elderly people's mental health. Now, many elderly people, especially those who are baby boomers, who are highly educated and with abundant work experience, can still shine in the work market. I suggest the government enhance elderly-friendly employment measures and encourage enterprises to extend the retirement age for their employees so that those who want to and can should continue to work. Now, the NGOs and other organizations should allow elderly people to participate in civic activities on a part-time basis. We need to unleash their potential. Deputy President, I support the motion and the amendments. Ms. Maggie Chan. Deputy President, I speak in support of the motion moved by Mr. Frankie YICK and also the amendments moved by the other members. We are facing the challenges brought about by an aging population. The government's existing policy is aging in place as the main strategy with community care as support. Now, we need to enhance our policy package to develop joint technology and elderly financing. We need to make Hong Kong an elderly-friendly metropolis. Now, concerning the 30 measures recommended by the Working Group on Promoting Silver Economy, I support them. I thank the government for responding to my suggestion made in November last year that the Working Group should set a clear strategy to help meet elderly people's financial needs. Now, I have several proposals. First, we need to enhance application scenarios for sharing technology and also at district elderly care centers and neighborhood centers, we should introduce smart health management system, which are linked up with the hospital authority. This will help allocate resources in a more targeted manner and reduce carer stress. Now, second, we need to step up publicity on joint technology. For example, anti-fall sensors and also companion boards and sleep monitors, as well as standing wheelchairs. We need to make use of communal playscape to organize Elderly Day and conduct intergenerational activities. Now, we should award entrepreneurs in joint technology. We should organize exhibition to showcase their products so that elderly people and their family members can understand these products. This will promote the silver economy. 4, we need to expand the scope of the application scope for elderly community care vouchers. Now, the existing scope mainly includes renting joint technology products. Now, we should allow elderly people to use the vouchers to purchase these products. This will reduce stress on carers as well. Now, we need to deepen the our elderly care policy. We need to install ES system as well as other joint technology in selected public housing estates and then extend the scheme. Now we need to review the application criteria for Innovation and Technology Fund for application in elderly and rehabilitation care to individuals. We need to step up publicity in rehabilitation units and enhance the leasing rates and usage rates for these products. Now, in terms of elderly finance, we need to forge our own brand, and we should explore possibility to collaborate with the mainland entrepreneurs under the design in Hong Kong and manufacture in the mainland model. Now, we should include INT and joint technology entrepreneurs in elderly insurance plans. We should attract mainland cities in the GBA to invest in our insurance products. Now we need to enhance the reverse mortgage program. We should extend the scope to allow application based on premises in the Bay Area so that homeowners in the Bay Area can use their home to ensure an income. Now we need to collaborate with other cities to provide more investment opportunities in the supermarkets. Thank you. Mr. Robert Lee. Deputy President, with a growing elderly population in Hong Kong, the expense in elderly health care will increase exponentially. Now, to prepare in advance, I support the idea mentioned in the original motion, that is, we need to build an elderly-friendly living environment. This will help reduce healthcare expenditure in the future and also promotes the development of the silver economy and injects new vibrancy into our economy. Now, I have 3 suggestions. 1, introducing the elderly-friendly concepts into elderly people's home. 2, improving community and healthcare services. 3, promoting the use of sharing technology so that the community can provide more services according to the ability and needs of elderly people. Now, according to the WHO's Global Age-Friendly Cities, a guide, there is a clear definition for an elderly-friendly environment. The key components for healthy elderly people includes 8 areas, including indoor layout, outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, housing, social participation, respect and social inclusion, civic participation and employment, and communication and information, and community support. Now, in terms of housing, according to the Health Department, elderly people aged 65 or above, every 1 in 5 of them have suffered from a fall in the past year, and among them, 75% have suffered from injuries, including head and bone fractures. So I support modifying the homes of elderly people. The government should subsidize the modification. Then we need to make reference to the practical guidance on modifying elderly homes in the mainland in terms of grab bars and the slippery tiles and so on. There should be standards set for these elderly-friendly designs. We should encourage the academia and the industry to set standards for expanding the living space of elderly people. In terms of community and healthcare services, some residential care homes reflected that the supplementary importation scheme for labor in the healthcare, in the care industry has been very helpful. So we should extend the scope of this scheme. We should enhance the training programs to attract young people into the industry. Now, the government should also attach importance to elderly people's mental health. Some 8.6% of the elderly people suffered from anxiety and depression. Now, besides medication, the government should encourage the business sector to show care to elderly people. University students should pay voluntary visits to elderly care homes. This can showcase the virtue of the Chinese culture, that is, we care for our elderly people. There should be more support to elderly people in their daily life so that they can maintain a certain extent of self-care. The government should support the development of CHEUNG technology, including providing more tax concessions for CHEUNG technology companies. More medical technological companies should be invited to Hong Kong. And the government may consider enhancing allocation of resources to the RCHE sector. Subsidies should be given to enhance training on RCHE staff concerning the use of CHEUNG technology. This will also alleviate the manpower shortage.
Mr. Ronald Chang. Mr. Deputy, I speak in support of the original motion and all the amendments. We have an aging population. The situation is aggravating. It's been discussed on many different platforms. The government has to tackle this challenge on the head. Well, there is the policy of aging in place. Even when someone's health condition turns for the worse, they would like to stay at home. It is very important to enhance the living standard of elderly people. Apart from district healthcare centers, there are also elderly healthcare centers in the 18 districts offering health check as well as treatment. However, you have to wait for a very long time to become a member. When I said this year, the centers are still processing applications submitted in 2023. The processing should be expedited. More resources should be devoted so that elderly people can receive services near where they live. To create a better environment, last year the government has launched a well-being design guide, including leaning benches in elevators, handrails, as well as benches of different heights in common areas. This shows the progress made by the government. However, about 40% of elderly people are living in private housing. They moved in these homes when they were young, but now they become frail. The design in private housing may not have taken that into account. Say, for example, the narrow door frame will stop people using walking frames from entering, and there may not be non-slip floor tiles or handrails in the bathroom. The government should, by legislation, mandate elderly-friendly designs in private housing. They can also launch a certification program by providing incentives such as exemption of floor areas to encourage developers to incorporate elderly-friendly design in private housing. I hope that these measures will be expedited. Some elderly people may not have means. I suggest that there is a subsidy program put in place to assist elderly people to have minor alterations, say, for example, adding handrails, widening the door frames, turning a bathtub into a shower cubicle. Since 2018, the Transport Department has, at some pedestrian crossings, installed technology-assisted crossing. If you have Zhou card, then you can beep and have another 6 seconds to cross the road. However, there are only 21 locations with this device. It's far from enough. There is a need for the government to identify spots where there are lots of elderly people in use to install these devices. There is a lack of benches in Hong Kong. In terms of urban planning, the health condition of elderly people should be taken into account. In areas with heavy footfall, suitable facilities should be installed to enhance the comfortability for elderly people. In terms of silver economy, in May, the government has announced 30 measures. Say, for example, special discount for elderly people and enhanced information from the Consumer Council. There are a lot of outlets offering special discounts for the elderly people. However, the information is fragmented. A lot of older people do not know that there are special deals available. I suggest that the government will launch a elderly-friendly shopping scheme. Shops should be encouraged to offer special discounts. Labels that are eye-catching should be provided because this will create a conducive environment for the elderly to shop. Promoting silver economy and building an elderly-friendly living environment is a long-term task. It requires the concerted effort of everyone. When it comes to consumption, living, mobility, we have to have concrete measures put in place to enhance the living standard of elderly people to give them the sense of happiness. Ms. Doreen Kong, I speak in support of the original motion of Mr. YICK. Well, there is a wave of elderly population. Life expectancy is lengthened. There is a dropping birth rate. We now have an aging population. In 2043, 1 in 3 people will be an elderly person over the age of 65. We have to be proactive by creating an elderly-friendly living environment. We need to turn this into an opportunity. In order to do so, we have to respect the dignity of elderly people. Well, there are many difficulties with the use of a wheelchair. It's very expensive and not easy to use. Compared to Singapore, we seriously lag behind. We need to step up the devotion of resources from the Innovation and Technology Fund. In terms of a diet, well, when elderly people eat, it's not just to survive. You need to take into account the sensory experience as well. More options should be offered for elderly people. Catering service with high quality should be encouraged through different means to provide a wide range of options for elderly people. We also need to be forward-looking when it comes to tackling dementia. Currently, we have 100,000 people suffering from the illness. In 2030, the number will increase to 330,000. But we don't have the facilities to support this large population. In other places, there are dedicated features, say for example, color path, as well as other facilities to prevent elderly people from getting lost. We need to set up a high-level committee to work out measures to tackle this issue. We also need to do something different when it comes to elderly people special offers. Shops offer special deals only on meals, and there are many different restrictions. We can draw reference from Nordic countries. According to different age groups, there may be different deals covering recreation, art, shopping to cater to the needs of elderly people. There can be more drama groups, bands organized by elderly centers. We can also make use of the tourism industry, say for example, dedicated itineraries for elderly people to nourish their mental health. This will also enhance their integration and sense of belonging into the community. The employment participation rate of elderly people is just 15%. We have 180,000 elderly people that are living below the poverty line. Age is not a criterion. If we turn to other places of the world, you see advertisements with silver hair models. We can make use of their uniqueness. We can also increase resources to social enterprises. Subsidy can be made available for them to employ elderly people. We can also encourage enterprises to create products. We need to stop ageism. We need to give elderly people the opportunity to continue to contribute to society. An elderly-friendly living environment is an important indicator of the advancement of our society. We can improve our measures, provide subsidies, and devote more resources to make that happen. In this way, we are actually investing into our future. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok. According to the United Nations survey, it says that in the past 20 years, the life expectancy has increased by 2 years. An aging population is a challenge faced by many different countries. These different countries have launched various measures to make it easier for the elderly people to live in retirement. We can draw reference from the different jurisdictions. More advanced countries are more active. They have put in place a sound framework of healthcare. They have devoted resources to technology. They've also tapped into the silver workforce so that elderly people can continue to make contributions into society. I think it is worth our frequent discussion when it comes to creating a favorable environment for the elderly. We have an aging population. In 2024, the population of those over the age of 64 stands at about 23.9%. We are an ultra old society. By 2044, the population of the elderly will rise to 36%. Back in 2019, there was a territory-wide survey showing that about 78% of the elderly people suffer from various chronic illnesses. If we need to first enhance the health of elderly people. Our public healthcare service provides comprehensive service to elderly people. However, the demand is huge and increasing, so some services are not delivered well. If we can make elderly people healthier, happier, it will alleviate the pressure on our public healthcare system. Turning to the mainland, we see there is rapid development. There are services covering rehabilitation, wellness, as well as elderly care. We can draw reference from that. Under this approach, services of healthcare, medicine, as well as wellness are grouped under one umbrella. There is also counseling service available. There are a number of elderly homes as well as hospitals establishing rehabilitation centers. But this approach is not taken up in Hong Kong. The long-term policy in Hong Kong is aging in place as the core with institutional care as backup. A lot of elderly people are staying at home. Homes for the elderly are mostly private. When it comes to helping elderly people stay healthy, it's down to the community centers. There are daycare centers, but these centers offer very simple activities, not so much as rehabilitation ones. More resources should be devoted into these centers run by NGOs so that they can offer rehabilitation activities for the elderly people. The two universities offer professional training courses. In addition to these, to the graduates, perhaps we can ask relevant professionals to help as well. Mobility is another issue for elderly people. They may be able to enjoy the $2 scheme. When they go out, they can only make use of the few escalators available. Very often they have to walk. In the Admiralty Station, we hear frequent calls for assistance from wheelchair users. We need to further improve accessibility. Well, we have the elderly policy for over 4 decades, but it's only confined to a small scope. Our country is different. There is a legislation protecting the rights of elderly people. Provinces and cities offer different activities for the elderly people. Say, for example, sports events as well as leisure activities. If we are to build an elderly-friendly living environment, then you need to help elderly people think that they're not burdened, but they are part of society. You need to help them live a dignified life as well. I speak in support of the motion as well as the amendments.
Mr. Ngaman, Deputy President, we are having an aging population in Hong Kong. The elderly population will go from 1.6 million from 2023 to 2.3 million in 2043. To cater to the trend, the government have been trying to build a city into a more elderly-friendly one. From urban planning, transport infrastructure, we try to enhance people's living quality. However, we are still faced with a series of challenges. There is a greater and greater demand for healthcare services. It is expected that in 2025, the government have to spend $100 million or so on healthcare services. The waiting time for government healthcare services is long and it's costly for people to go for private healthcare services. For chronic or patients with chronic illness, they have to go for follow-up consultations very often. That increase their financial burdens. Now, in terms of housing, we don't have enough supply for units that cater to the needs of the elderly. It is expected that in 2030, we are in short of 60,000 units suitable for the elderly. There are still some 30,000 units that are not equipped with elderly-friendly facilities. There are estates with no lifts, no slippery-free pavement. According to the Department of Health, over 70% of elderlies have fallen at home. As to how we can build an elderly-friendly living environment, I have the following suggestions. First, we have to enhance healthcare support. The DAB is of the view that a healthcare service is a core to building an elderly-friendly living environment. We have to step up supply of treatment and therapy. We have to consolidate resources so that we can offer a one-stop healthcare service for the elderly. We have to encourage the district healthcare centers to work with local NGOs so that they can offer one-stop service for the elderly. At the same time, we have to enhance support for aging in place to enhance the quality of people's life. Second, we have to enhance safety of the elderly's household. I think that we should establish a subsidy scheme to subsidize elderly by installing, say, barriers and guardrails, grab bars in their homes, for example. For public housing estates of over 40 to 50 years, many of their residents are elderly. With the pilot scheme in Shatin, I believe that the government now has more information on the living quality of the elderly residents there. I hope that they will enhance their support for the elderly. I think that also the government should install lifts at public rental housing. I serve the Kowloon East District. Many estates are waiting for the installation of lifts. However, it seems that they still have a long time to wait before they can see a lift at their estates. I hope that more barrier-free facilities can be provided at these estates to make sure that their commute is safe. Third, we have to promote the application of drone technology. This is how we can make our elderly's lives more convenient. As to how we can make drone technology more popular, I think that the government should expand the scope of INT fund to individuals so that individual elderly can enhance their living quality according to their needs. Lastly, the consumption habits of the elderly is different from people who are younger. So I think that the government should promote intersectoral and departmental collaboration so that we can offer more products to our elderly. Mr. Champulan. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. I have to thank Mr. Frankie YICK for moving the motion. We have an aging population. We have to build an elderly-friendly living environment to enhance their sense of happiness and gain. This is what the government and the community have to work on. Under the World Health Organization's Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide, they have rolled out many different measures. We have to say, for example, work on transportation, housing, social participation, respect and social inclusion, civic participation and employment, communication and information, so on and so forth. According to the CNSD, 80% of the elderly want to age in place. They don't want to retire at care homes. However, in old buildings, they don't have very free access. Some of them don't have lifts or guardrails. Their bathrooms do not have non-slippery design. That's why we need to have a barrier-free access and universal design. In 2020, the URA launched a pilot scheme to introduce drone technology into their buildings' design. The elderly can, for example, install electronic clothes hangers and lifting chairs, for example. I think that we should extend this pilot scheme to the entire territory. In the 2023 policy address, the chief executive established the working group on promoting elderly-friendly building design. GFA concessions and other measures were put in place to encourage developers to provide elderly-friendly facilities. I hope that the relevant measures can be put in place as soon as possible. On building an elderly-friendly living environment, I think that mental health and changing our culture is also very important. Elderly people are feeling more lonely than ever. I think that the government should enhance support for the elderly by extending district counseling services. We have to set KPIs to make sure that the services are of quality. At the same time, we should build a culture that respects the elderly. We should launch a Respect the Elderly campaign to promote intergenerational harmony. There were care homes who hire university students to play mahjong with the elderly. This makes our elderly people more happy while promoting intergenerational relationship. On the mainland, at the elderly care homes, they organize courses and programs on, say, piano and chess. They organize also intergenerational workshops on arts and crafts. They also organize sharing sessions so that the elderly resident can share their experience with the younger generation. In Hong Kong, we also have many institutions that offer elderly courses that teach our old people how to use smartphones. This will encourage lifelong learning among our elderly residents. We should also learn from the mainland by offering integrated service to the elderly so that they can enhance their sense of belonging to the society. If they work, then they can become a participant of the society and a contributor, instead of just a mere recipient of social security services. This is how we can build a harmonious environment that care for the elderly. I so speak in support of Mr. Frankie Yick's motion and the amendments. Ms. Lam Sawai. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. I speak in support of Mr. Frankie Yick's motion on building an elderly-friendly living environment and all of the amendments. Hong Kong is a city with longevity. We are at the crossroad of structural change in terms of our population. In 2043, 1/3 of our population would be elderly. The United Nations said that in 2050, we're going to have the world's oldest population. As our healthcare advance, our people's lives expectancy have become longer and longer. When I go to the districts, I come across many elderly people. They told me that they had to walk very fast as they cross the road because the green man time is very short. And as the elderly people walk up the stairs, they have to hold the handrails, and sometimes they have to walk a long way before they can reach a lift. Hong Kong will soon become a city with the world's oldest population. If we cannot cater to the needs of the people's basic life, then regardless of how good our economy is, that's meaningless. So I think that we should, for example, lengthen the green man light time at the pedestrian crossing, review our lift facilities. I think that the administration should make reference to the World Health Organization's Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide and the Strengthening the Work on the Elderly in the New Era report of the State Council. We should also make reference to the opinions of the Central Committees of the Communist Party of China. To review our urban planning, we should adopt an elderly-oriented approach. We should include a universal design into our building standards. At the same time, we have to care for our elderly and their dignity in meals. I agree with what Mr. Tommy Cheng said. We have to promote soft meals. We have over 100,000 elderly people who are troubled with swallowing difficulties. Sometimes regular food can become a health hazard for these elderly. So I think that the government should devise a roadmap on the development of soft meals. We can subsidize local restaurants to develop soft meals and introduce it into the regular menus at the elderly care homes. The carers should also be subsidized and undergoing courses on how to make soft meals. Mr. Deputy, on elderly care homes, the average waiting time for it is about 3 years. We have a shortage of community services. Instead of rolling out new projects, I think that we should dedicate more resources on district care homes and daycare centers. We should adopt this principle of aging in place as the core with institutional care as backup. We can develop, say, for example, monitoring devices at elderly people's home. Now, in terms of drone technology, we have the capabilities of developing and testing these products. However, these devices are not that popular. Users' need cannot be met. I think that the government should work with the INT sector to pilot closed-loop usage of drone technology to cater to the needs of the elderly. We cannot avoid the trend of aging in Hong Kong. That's why we must work on it, so that our elderly can be cared for as we develop our economy. So submit.
主席，本
Professor Priscilla Leung. Deputy President, I speak in support of the motion and all the amendments. I'm grateful for Mr. Frankie YICK for moving this motion, which gives us an opportunity to talk about the topic. Elderly people are cherished. So we hope that we are really showing our care and our cherish for elderly people by our actions. Starting from 2010, the term silver-haired was mentioned in this council. How can we help the silver-haired to shine again? A declaration of interest, I'm a baby boomer. I know a lot of baby boomers who are passionate for life. They retire at the age of 50 after finishing their employment with the civil service. So how can we help them to shine in society? There are many people who hate the term retirement because it seems very negative. So I proposed 3 suggestions back then. First, all along I have been urging the government to give no regard to age. Now we have the Young Entrepreneurs Fund. We should have an Elderly Entrepreneurs Fund. I will talk about this continuously until it exists. Second, we need to have a development plan for the silver-haired. 3, we need to introduce the concept of a time bank. First, on Elderly Entrepreneurship Fund. Yes, we need to take more care of ourselves when we age. But in terms of experience, we have rich experience and knowledge. It is valuable to young entrepreneurs who have passion but not experience. Now, sometimes I heard young entrepreneurs losing millions of dollars on their first try at business. They lost all their savings. But they are very smart. They are very AI savvy. There are many catering businesses closing. But will they be able to thrive if technology is used? Now, many baby boomers are still capable of thinking creatively. So we should let them go creative by giving them the fund to start a business. Now, in terms of development plan for the silver-haired, we talk about lifelong planning. Now, for those who are at the age of 60 or 70, they still have decades to live. Now, in Korea, some retirees are trained to become fashion models or become a chef. Some elderly people start a restaurant themed on their famous public figures like Bruce Lee. Now, these people are very good at marketing because they have been entrepreneurs previously. It's good for the economy as well. It will make society characteristic. And we have 30% of elderly population in a society. So we think we have to rename elderly. Maybe we should call them the new youth. We need to make them happy. Some elderly people are very active. If they can have fun and enjoy their own life, they will not trouble the younger members in the families to take care of them. Now, there are many other people who have their own properties. Their children have already grown up, so they put up their properties for reverse mortgage. But they don't know how to spend the income generated from it. So there should be some centers to help these elderly people to make plans for the future decades so that they can have a proper planning. Now, finally, time bank is important. There are many people working in the care teams to contribute to society. If there is the concept of a time bank, it would encourage elderly people or young people to be more active in helping the elderly because they know they will be the beneficiaries in the future. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, Deputy President, I speak in support of the motion moved by Mr. Frankie YICK and all the amendments. Now, with the average life expectancy lengthening in Hong Kong, the pace of aging in the population has been sped up. Now, according to the CNSD, there were 7.5 million elderly population in Hong Kong in 2024. It will grow to 8.15 million in the future. Now, those aged above 65 will account for 36% of the population by 2046. One-third of the population will be silver-haired. Now, the growing market means huge potential for our economy. But at the same time, the labor participation rate will drop from 55% in 2024 to 52% in 2045. The government needs to start preparing for the challenges brought about by the aging population as well as the additional pressure on our healthcare system. Now, the opportunities brought about by the silver-haired market is the key to rising above the challenges. We must start planning now to build an elderly-friendly living environment to develop the silver economy and unleash the potential among the silver-haired. We need to seize the opportunity amongst the challenges. We have to recognize the consumption power of the silver-haired. There are more and more products and CHEUNG technology products suitable for the needs of the silver-haired. Services span from transportation, living to mobility. There are anti-fall detectors. There are also companion boards and also other smart home appliances for elderly people. Now, by realizing the value in the silver market, we can nurture an ecosystem. Now, according to my observation, many elderly people living in old Chinese tenement buildings have difficulties going out. In many old buildings, because of the lack of lifts or lifts under repair, they can't go out. Now, CHEUNG technology can play a huge role here. I declare interest. I'm the honorary chairman of a charity organization. Now, that charity organization is a group of volunteers who provide barrier-free help to elderly people. Now, based on the principle of helping others and helping ourselves, my charity organization helps elderly people living in buildings with no lifts to install stair climbers. We also organize reach-out activities to help elderly people reach hard-to-reach destinations like the Great Buddha. Now, using CHEUNG technology, we can enhance the living standard of the elderly people. It is also a new business opportunity to help elderly people live with dignity. Now, I support the government's direction in promoting collaboration between the research, academic, and industry. There should be more incentives to encourage businesses to adapt the model to meet the needs of the elderly population. We need to promote the growth of the local ecosystem. Now, the dietary needs of the silver-haired must be met. There are more and more importance attached to salt mills. I've urged the government to popularize the culture of soft meals. More restaurants should offer a diversified menu of care food. There should also be an accreditation system for soft meals so that elderly people with swallowing difficulties can enjoy a good meal outside. Now, I support the establishment of the Guideline of Care Food Standard by the HKCSS. Now, I know that the GBA standard for care food is being formulated right now. Now, with the use of AI, we can enhance living standard of elderly people, but we need to pay attention to the digital gap as well. Dr. Tang Ka-piu. Thank you, Deputy President. Faced with the changing population structure when there is more than 1/3 of population aged 65 or above, this is more than a change in the statistics, but rather a change in the development model and the governance of a city. Can we adapt to this structural change? Can we reallocate our social resources to meet the changing needs? Now, to do that, we need to support Mr. Frankie YICK's motion. We need to build an elderly-friendly living environment. Adapting to the aging population is important. Now we talk about policy, innovation, and industry nurturing. Now, first of all, the government should play a leading role to direct the private sector's resources into products and services suitable for the silverhead. The silver consumption market is a new sector in Hong Kong. Enterprises are beginning to value the importance of this sector. Now, with some adjustment, enterprises can provide services and products suitable for the silverhead. For example, soft meal. Some local chain restaurants are collaborating with suppliers to modify their supply chain and provide easy-to-swallow soft meal for elderly people. On one hand, elderly people are cared for, and also a new market has been created. Now, in the future, more and more conventional market stakeholders will participate in the expansion of the silverhead consumption market. Now, the government can consider establishing subsidy fund to promote elderly products and also establishing an accreditation system for recognizing elderly-friendly products. Now, at the present, the silver economy will account for 10% of the mainland's GDP, while in Japan it will be 15% of the GDP. We may consider set a target in terms of the silverhead market's proportion in our GDP. Now, in face with the dual challenges of aging population and also the low birth rates, we need to promote intergenerational integration between the youth and the elderly people. We may consider a model where elderly people support young people in participating in the economy. Now, there may be residential projects with young people and elderly people living together. This will be a sustainable model for society's developments. Now, in terms of public housing estates and transitional housing projects, we may consider such an intergenerational residential projects. By providing rent concessions to young people can be incentivized to offer their companion and services to the elderly people in exchange of cheaper rent. And we need to enhance our hardware and software, but we also need policy measures to sustain the effort. We must be courageous and trailblazing. I so submit. I support the motion and the amendments.
Mr. Lo-Wai-Kwok, Madam Deputy, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. YICK for the original motion and the 3 amendments. According to the Census and Statistics Department, by 2046, those above the age of 65 will reach 2.74 million people, 36% of our population. That means 1 over 3 people in Hong Kong will be an elderly person. The aging population issue is worsening. I think the government has the duty to plan early to create an elderly-friendly living environment and to promote the development of silver economy. Different sectors should also encourage elderly people to participate in community and economic activities, so that elderly people will unleash their potential and they can lead a dignified life. There needs to be a top-level planning concept. The government also needs to be forward-looking. In 2023, the BPA has published a paper on creating an elderly-friendly society. The directions cover many different aspects. A cross-departmental working mechanism should be set up to enhance resource allocation. We have made recommendations that includes building a sizable center for the elderly people, asking the market to tap into the opportunities of the silver consumption market. The government should work with the construction sector. From the perspective of hardware, planning should be reviewed. Elderly-friendly living environment as well as accessible programs should be incorporated in different areas. In the Northern Metropolis, there should be land set aside for elderly living and community centers. We need to create a safe and accessible living environment for the elderly. The government should provide assistance to put in place elderly-friendly designs, say, for example, handrail, non-slip tiles. When it comes to promoting aging in place, the government should implement universal accessibility program by turning curbs into ramps and stairs into ramps. There should be better use of current technology. Demand outstrips supply when it comes to elderly services. Now there is the use of technology through robots. In Shenzhen, there is a new approach for elderly service using robots. These elderly service robots can monitor the health condition of elderly people. They can also talk and spend time with the elderly people. In May 2025, the mainland ministries and commissions has issued a paper on the use of robotics. I think the government should set up a subsidy program to provide funding support for enterprises to conduct research on technology. The scope of the Innovation and Technology Fund for application in elderly and rehabilitation care should be widened to individuals. Healthcare vouchers should also be expanded to the procurement of technology products and services. Technology training to service centers and care teams should be enhanced so that technology will be well used. The government should also leverage on market forces to promote the development of the silver economy. On one hand, industry should be encouraged to diversify. There should be collaboration with different companies. The government should also set up a startup fund for elderly service. Guidance funding will be provided to entrepreneurs so that they can be innovative with their service and products. I so submit. Mr. Benson Look. Madam Deputy, I thank Mr. Yick for moving the original motion. I also thank other members for the amendments. According to the Census and Statistics Department, the population of elderly people has increased from 4.5% from 1971 to 10.1% in 2021. Another survey shows that the number of elderly population will increase to 2.74 million people in 2014 from 1.45 in 2021. That means 1 in every 3 people in Hong Kong will be an elderly person. The 14th Five-Year Plan has devoted some coverage on the aging population. Medium to long-term planning has been formulated in this regard. Well, there is a protection system for elderly people. There is also a list of fundamental needs for elderly people. Looking at Hong Kong, most people retire the 3 pillars for their retirement, one of which is the MPF. But we all understand that the fund accumulated is not enough to support retirement. The other pillars are contributions from the family as well as the savings. The third pillar is social security. I have a number of suggestions. When it comes to retirement planning, the government can make use of the 3 pillars, expand measures such as reverse mortgage as well as a silver bond. The government can continue to enhance annuity plans, say for example by expanding the quota or the age limit of fund retrieval. Promotion should be stepped up as well to increase the number of participants. When it comes to formulating a blueprint, the BPA advocates a comprehensive plan. In new development areas, land should be earmarked for elderly service. Studies should be conducted to set up elderly centers in GBA cities. In these cities, elderly living clusters should be established. The restrictions on the Guangdong scheme and Fujian scheme should be relaxed. The threshold of healthcare voucher should be lowered to the age of 60. The amount should be adjusted as well. There should be a survey conducted on elderly singleton and couples. A big data bank should be established. The information can be used to assist care teams. In addition, there is also fraud prevention targeting the elderly population. The government can also set up a startup fund for elderly services and products. Guidance, funding, support can be provided. Subsidy can be made available for training courses to be organized for the elderly. There can be a flexible retirement arrangement. Civil servants over the age of 65 can stay in their employment flexibly. All these expand the options of elderly people. They can remain active, they can continue to work, or they can just retire. I so submit. Mr. Tony Jay. Madam Deputy, back in 2021, when I first became a legislator, according to the government's definition, I was not an elderly person. At that time, I asked the government to adopt measures to handle the challenges and difficulties from an aging population. That covers urban planning, building, use of technology. We want to create an elderly-friendly living environment. Together with people from survey, architecture, construction, INT, elderly service, we have formed a working group. Back in 2016, we published a study with 8 recommendations. That includes providing incentives for developers to build more elderly-friendly accommodation, set down appropriate standards, as well as 4 areas. When it comes to interior design and common areas, there should be elderly-friendly design incorporated. The report covers at least 4 to 5 policy purviews. It's very difficult to find the leading department or bureau. At that time, the issue was not as burning as today. Our recommendations were not followed up actively. Fast forward to today, now we have a larger elderly population. Elderly people find it difficult to move about in society. They also encounter difficulties in their everyday lives. I'm glad that the government now tackles the issue on its head. There is the well-being design guide adopted. The living environment for elderly people is improved. In the policy address in 2023, the government announced that there will be facilitating designs for elderly accommodation. There will be resources allocated on agile technology and lifelong learning. There is the working group on the development of silver economy set up. Relevant guidelines are implemented by phases. These are late by about a decade, but at least it's an important step forward. Looking ahead, the government should work harder on 2 areas. First, the design of interior area as well as common areas. These are part of the living environment of the elderly. We need to meet the needs of social activities from the elderly. We need to enhance their sense of well-being. Outside, when it comes to streetscape, design of gardens, playgrounds, government services, as well as facilities should be elderly-friendly. There should also be the element to encourage intergeneration inclusion. In addition to hardware, we also need to consider software such as support and care service. We have an aging population. In addition, we have a low birth rate. There are a lot more elderly singleton couples as well as elderly carers. We need to give them enhanced support. In addition to relying on the social welfare sector, we can also make use of property management sectors. Subsidy and training can be provided to this sector to enhance the ability to provide better support. This kind of work has gone beyond the purview of the Labor and Welfare Bureau, Health Bureau, as well as the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau. Other bureaus, say for example the Home and Youth Affairs Department, Home and Youth Affairs Bureau, the Housing Bureau are not here. Elderly friendly living environment should be made into a key area of the government's work.
Mr. Yang Wen-kit, Thank you. Madam Deputy, I speak in support of Mr. Frankie Yick's motion on building an elderly-friendly living environment. In 2007, the World Health Organization launched this idea of an elderly-friendly city. Apart from social security, we have to cater to the needs of the people's life. We have that cover transportation, social participation, respect, employment, information exchange, social support, healthcare services. The core concept is social participation. By enhancing the living environment, we can encourage the elderly persons to go out. In 2012, the government rolled out this universal accessibility program. I think that this is a great measure. By providing for barrier-free access, more people will be willing to go out and leave their home. CHEUNG estate has been having accessibility difficulties. There is not a lift there, but CHEUNG estate is built on a hill. That's why residents found it difficult to go out. Finally, a lift was installed at the sports center next to CHEUNG estate, and that was included as a project under the Universal Accessibility Program. This has addressed the mobility issue at the estate. I hope that the government will roll out the fourth phase of the program as soon as possible. I think that we should also build escalators and lifts that bring people up the hill. Apart from this, the government have to provide more community support for elderly with mobility impairment. We also have to create online ride-hailing services for people who are mobility impaired. When elderly people want to go to the hospitals, they find it difficult to hire any cars because they are sometimes wheelchair-bound. At the same time, we should learn from Shenzhen by offering a platform for the elderly people to hire barrier-free vehicles. I think that we can, at the same time, offer more healthcare services to the elderly. Elderly people need to go for consultation services very often. That's why we need to sometimes ask people to accompany these elderly to the hospitals. For elderly that receive community healthcare vouchers, they can use the vouchers to hire someone to accompany them to go for follow-up consultation. However, for those who do not receive such vouchers, they have to hire people to accompany them with their own savings. Many young volunteers in the healthcare sector told me that they wanted to help elderly people, so that as they grow older, they will be assisted by younger volunteers. By this, we can create an elderly-friendly society. Finally, I hope that there will be equal access to public services for elderly who are mobility impaired. However, there is still a problem of digital inclusion. On the mainland, however, the hospitals offer green channels for elderly. I know that we have similar arrangements in Hong Kong. Some travel agencies, they offer green channels for online booking for elderly people. They also have staff that help elderly people fill out any forms at their branches. I think that we should include more green channels at various public services. I think that we have to improve our software and hardware to improve the quality of life of our elderly. In the future, the government should continue to work hard to support our elderly so that they can live a healthy and active life. Dr. So CHEUNG. President. The United Nations predicted that Hong Kong will have the world's oldest population in 2050. By then, 40% of our population will be older than 65 years old. As we have more and more senior citizens, we have many issues to address. We have a low birth rate. We are faced with a structural issue. I support Mr. Frankie YICK's motion and the amendments. Hong Kong has been striving to develop an elderly-friendly living environment on healthcare and welfare. We have implemented many measures. Say, for example, the $2 scheme, cross-boundary elderly care services, development of drone technology. We also have the Hong Kong MC3 to allow our middle-class or middle-aged people to purchase or take out annuity plan. It seems that we are having better and better protection for our elderly people. However, given the aging population issue, the government must formulate a systemic plan to cater to the problems. First, we should enhance elderly-friendly living design. For example, we have to implement a barrier-free access at various residential developments. We can, for example, achieve this by building floors with non-slippery material. Second, we have to expand primary healthcare services and promote the development of drone technology. Through the use of technology, elderly people can take care of themselves. Third, the government should take the lead in encouraging more elderly people to pursue lifelong learning so that they can ensure a healthy mental health. We should create a social culture that respects the elderly. The most concerning issue is the increasing public expenditure. The low birth rate further undermine our labor force. That's why we must develop silver economy. It will serve as a new engine for our economy. We have a large elderly population. They have various demands on, say, for example, healthy food, leisure activities, asset management. This can be turned into a big market, and this is how we can develop silver economy. In Hong Kong, we do not have a comprehensive silver industry yet. The working group on promoting silver economy just announced 30 measures on silver industry, silver consumption, silver productivity, silver financial and security arrangements, quality assurance of silver products, so on and so forth. I think that the functions of the working group should be enhanced so that it can coordinate different departments and bureaus to improve our policies. By this, we can create a supply chain of the relevant service. Also, I think that the government should legislate to regulate silver industries to protect and ensure the healthy development of silver economy. Mr. Lam Man-kwon. Thank you, President. The reason why we discuss this motion of building an elderly-friendly living environment is because some 20% of our population are over 65 years old. By 2039 or 40, 1/3 of our population would be someone aged over 60 years old. So we must be well prepared to cater to the trend. I'd like to focus on two different areas, on transportation, mobility, and living accommodation. First, many elderly people stay at their home. That's why we have to ensure that there is elderly-friendly design in their accommodation. Now, I have to commend the housing department because there are many elderly-friendly infrastructures and design in public rental housing. Many public rental housing adopt the design with low floor, wide entrance, floor with non-slippery material, so on and so forth. Many elderly people in Hong Kong live in private residential developments. These places and accommodations do not adopt elderly-friendly design. So I think that in the future, in private residential developments, there should be automated doors, there should be non-slippery tiles. The government is going to offer gross floor area concessions to private developers so that they will put in place more barrier-free access and facilities in their developments. I hope that the community will try to improve the to improve our environment so that it becomes more favorable for the elderly as soon as possible. At the same time, we must also rely on drone technology. Starting from this year, at Kwun Tong Estate and Shenlok Estate, the government is trialing a smart card system and a sensor system. If the elderly person who live in the estate do not leave their homes for a long time, then their relatives will be notified. Many old buildings do not come with any lift. Many elderly who are mobily impaired would rather not leave their home. That actually affect their social lives. Very recently, I visited a premises designed by the Steps of Good Deeds. That's a organization chaired by Mr. Tony Che. Many elderly people were not able to leave their home, and with installations of lift, they are more willing to go out, and as a result, they will become happier. If we adopt drone technology more extensively, then the quality of life of the elderly can be enhanced very substantially. However, an industry chain has yet to be formed. As a result, I think that the government should work with property management companies to install, say, for example, fall detection devices at the elderly household. I hope that the housing department will extend the trial of smart card systems and more public rental housing. At the same time, the administration should learn from the success of the emergency alarm system. Second, on mobility. Public rental housing, many well-being designs been put in place, which include many elderly-friendly elements. However, we have to also make it more convenient for the elderly resident to leave their home. I think that, say, for example, more lifts should be installed at bridges that has only staircases. I think that apart from making drone technology more popular, we have to encourage different sectors to participate in building an elderly-friendly living environment. I so speak in support of the motion.
李振強議員。
Mr. Michael Lee. Thank you, President. In this day and age, in Hong Kong, there is 1.25 million people in Hong Kong who are aged 65 or above. That's 1 in every 5 people. In 2043, the ratio will grow to 1 in 3. Now, as an old youth, in year 2043, I will become an elderly person. So I think the government should be prepared for the growth in the elderly population by making adaptation and reviewing our urban planning policy to build an elderly-friendly living environment. We need to enhance the sense of happiness and sense of gains of the elderly people. Now, I will speak in relation to accommodation. Many of our buildings are 50 years old or older. There are some 8,000 private buildings of such an age. Many of them are Chinese tenement buildings without lifts. Besides stuffy environments, it is also dangerous for elderly people to move about. It limits their mobility and poses challenges to elderly people going grocery shopping or medical follow-up. And usually, those elderly people living in Chinese tenement buildings are elderly singleton or doubleton. They wouldn't spend money on renovating their homes. Now, with concrete spalling and other issues common in old buildings, the living environments will only deteriorate. So, in the future, when considering redevelopment, the government should install elderly-friendly facilities, for example, handrails or grab bars, and also barrier-free access and ramps to bathrooms and so on. In terms of public housing estates, we applaud the government for adopting universal accessibility design, for example, widening the doors and ramps. So I hope the Housing Authority will consider to review the standard of elderly friendliness in public housing estates. And the government said it will launch an accreditation program for elderly-friendly building design. I hope that the standard will be launched soon. Now, in the northern metropolis, we need to reserve sufficient space to accommodate a wide range of housing projects so that the community is livable for people of all age. Now, on that note, Shenzhen is a good example. There are always rest gardens and parks around residential areas for the public to enjoy, including elderly people. In Hong Kong, there are usually just children playscape in our parks, but with a lowering birth rate and growing elderly population, the government should revisit the standard of parks. Now, I have been an Eastern District Council member for many years. I've been urging for the government to install more pavilions, sheltered seatings, and also exercise equipment for elderly people. There should be venues for Baiduanqin and Tai Chi. There should also be exercise equipment for elderly persons to improve their physical health. Now, can the government go creative to encourage elderly people to move around? Now, besides sensors detecting any accidents at home, can the sensor also detect how often the elderly people go out? Now, we should award elderly people for going out often. Now, I hope we can build an elderly-friendly living environment on all fronts so that we can achieve the aspirations set by President Xi when he visited Hong Kong, that is to give better care for elderly persons in Hong Kong. I so submit. Ms. Li Ling Kwok. Thank you, President. I thank Mr. Frankie YICK for moving the motion on building an elderly-friendly living environment. Statistics show that in the future, we are going to be a very old society. We need to have a living environment in which elderly people can live and enjoy themselves in. Now, in 2007, the WHO launched the Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide, which confirmed 8 areas of concern. Now, I hope the government will make reference to this guideline in building a living environment which is elderly friendly. Now, to do that, urban planning is important. Now, Japan has designed smart elderly community, combining healthcare institutions and smart technologies. There is synergy between the community and hospitals nearby. There is one-stop service combining outpatient consultation and pharmacies. In the future, I think the government should focus on a town planning approach where elderly persons can live and receive medical care in situ. There should also be safe internal and external environments for the elderly people, as well as barrier-free access to transportation. Society should also nurture an inclusive atmosphere for elderly people to encourage them to participate in civic and economic activities. Besides organizing a wide range of social activities for elderly people, retirees should be given the opportunities to work as volunteers or employees. Many people are willing to volunteer in various activities. For example, in carnivals, there are also retired electricians who repair electrical appliances for elderly people for free. These experienced workers can also share their knowledge with the youth. Now, in terms of employment services, the government has been providing retraining programs to elderly people. In terms of employment policy, employers are encouraged to re-employ experienced workers. Now, I hope organizations focusing on providing elderly services should consider employing elderly persons to serve the elderly. In Japan, there are convenience stores hiring elderly employees because they understand the needs of elderly persons. Goods will be placed at easy-to-reach places for the sake of elderly consumers. Now, that's how we can help retirees to reintegrate into society. They can realize their self-worth while contributing to the economy. Now, to enhance this sense of happiness of elderly people, mental health is key. Surveys show that retirees are more vulnerable to depression and anxieties because of financial pressure. So I think the government should expand the Shall We Talk projects and provide more Tier 1 and Tier 2 services in the DHCs. Counselors should be employed to provide professional counseling services to the elderly persons. They need an outlet to their needs. Aging population is an irreversible trend. We need to prepare for that in advance. The blueprint must cover transportation, town planning, building design, and social participation, as well as mental and physical security. We need to build a vibrant and inclusive living environment for our elderly population to live in dignity and in happiness. Thank you. I so submit. Dr. Starry Lee, President, I speak in support of Mr. Frankie YICK's motion. I thank him for giving us this opportunity to discuss how we can build an elderly-friendly living environment and prepare for our aging society. Now, it is always a virtue of the Chinese nation that we care for our elderly people. The government has dedicated a lot of resources for that purpose. Now, I will speak on how we can make the best use of our existing services and programs to build a better environment for our elderly. Now, with a rough count, there are lots of programs available for the elderly people under the SWD. Even with my experience in the community, I think there are lots more I don't know. For example, we have the Neighborhood Center for the Elderly Persons, Elderly Day Activity Center, Integrated Family Services Center. I count 9. Now, for accommodation, there is the Community Residential Care Voucher, Residential Care Voucher Scheme, the Guangdong Scheme. In terms of social security, there is CSSA and the Guangdong Fujian Retirement Scheme, and also Joyu Card. There's also elderly health care vouchers as well as other plans. In terms of mental health, there are outreach teams. For care programs, there is the Care Support Hotline, and also pilot training programs for elderly carers. And also there are the CCF and other subsidies for installing EAS and other disability allowances. So maybe we can consolidate all these services under a one-stop platform. Now that's something that our ward officers and care teams have been helping the elderly persons to understand too. But maybe we can establish a one-stop platform to help applicants understand the progress of their application and also the programs available. That will make it more convenient for elderly people to understand the available support for them. And also, we need to provide tiered support for elderly people. Now, in the very near future, many of my fellow colleagues will join the rank of elderly people. Now, first-tier elderly people are active and financially independent. For Tier 2, these elderly people begin to become frail. And third tier, elderly people need support. And for the last tier, those elderly people need end-of-life care. So we need to consider the support offered to elderly people in different tiers. We need better classification so that elderly people in different tiers will have an idea what support will they get. That also includes barrier-free access, reverse mortgage. And for the newly old who are still very active, there are other policy measures from other bureaus as well. Now finally, a huge challenge. We have a lot of high-quality residential care homes for the elderly, but with an aging population, there will be more and more people needing such care. Now, we are spending 70% of our resources on 30% of high-quality residential care homes. However, 70% of residents in care homes receive very little support, so the allocation of resources is uneven. So when we are migrating towards an ultra-old society, we need to allocate the resources better, so that whether residents are staying in public or private care homes, they still enjoy an acceptable living standard. Now, aging in place is a good idea. Germ technology is important here. Now, there are criticisms that the price of our germ technology products are too expensive. Now, with our present technological prowess, we can conduct research on more germ technology products. The government should take the lead to spread the use of technology.
Professor William Wong, President. The aging population in Hong Kong is irreversible. According to the projection of the government, the elderly population will be rising from 28% to 30% in 2043. 1 in 3 people in Hong Kong will be an elderly person. At the dawn of a silver population, the government has announced the recommendations of the working group to develop silver economy that covers boosting silver consumption, developing silver industry, promoting quality assurance of silver products, and enhancing silver financial and security arrangements, as well as unleashing silver productivity. There are challenges as well as opportunities. With rapid development of technology, we can easily create an elderly-friendly environment for elderly people who would like to stay active to stay active. Those who are in need will receive support. When it comes to unleashing silver productivity, there are lots of silver hair professionals who would like to continue to work. Say, for example, I have organized a number of information technology teachers to provide services in schools with who need information technology teachers. There will be more tasks with humans working alongside robots. The government should make plans to equip the middle-aged and the elderly with the knowledge to work with robots. In a policy address consultation, I have made suggestions of organizing courses to enhance the technology literacy of people. The target group can be the middle-aged and the elderly people to give them knowledge, foundation knowledge to work with technology. Early training should be given to them so that they can get used to working with robots. When it comes to elderly care, innovation technology can boost development of the silver economy. In addition, it can also provide support as well as boost safety. The development of germ technology in Hong Kong is quite good. There has been summits and expos of germ technology. Devices, say for example, portable health condition wearables, emergency alarm systems. These devices give autonomy to elderly people to manage their own health. It also helps the family members monitor the movement of elderly people at home. There is, in addition, fall detection systems, voice recognition devices. All these technology makes living a lot easier. It also provides assurance to family members. There is not a huge prevalence of the use of germ technology because of incentives and financial issues. The government should step up publicity to promote germ technology to encourage usage. A lot of elderly people are actually living in public housing estates. The housing authority can provide support for germ technology to be used. In two housing estates, there are sensors installed at the doors. This is a very good start. In the future, the scope of minor works can be expanded to cover installation of fall detection systems and sensors. I speak in support of the motion and the amendments. Mr. Chen Hock-Fung. Well, an aging population is the fact in 2040, 1/3 of the population in Hong Kong will be above the age of 65. I think by then I will be one of the 1/3 of elderly people in Hong Kong. Formulating measures is important. Members have covered various areas. I would like to speak from the perspective of housing as well as community planning. Elderly people either live in the private or the public housing sector. When it comes to public housing, we have heard a lot about it. Under the HA, there is the universal design. In new public housing estates, the accessibility is even better. Say, for example, entrance, toilets. In older estates, the old designs will be phased out. Elderly people living in old estates can apply to move to a new unit. I think when it comes to public housing, the government has been doing quite well. However, in the private sector, we see a lot of elderly people encountering difficulties in their own home. They live in a property they own, so they have asset, but they don't have cash. They rely on the old age living allowance to live. They don't have the money to do any major renovations. Well, it's difficult for elderly people to climb stairs. They don't have the finance to pay for renovation and maintenance. A lot of these elderly people become hidden elderly people. They stay at home. Is it something that you want to see? Well, in old buildings, there is redevelopment. The current approach is that owners will receive compensation for them to move out. But is it the best solution for elderly people? I think we can do more. In the redevelopment of old districts, well, if you give them a sum, elderly people may just go to live in a home. The living standard will not be improved. Perhaps we can draw reference from the Housing Society. They have a very good elderly housing schemes. The elderly people will be living in a complex with elderly services nearby. Perhaps in redevelopment projects, a sum is, instead of giving elderly people, in addition to giving a sum to elderly people, a place can be given to them, and the sum can be used to procure elderly services. The approach of the Housing Society is good, but it's quite pricey. Perhaps a more affordable version can be built for elderly people. Now there is a high vacancy rate of commercial units. The Secretary for Development has this scheme to turn commercial buildings into hotels or hostels. Perhaps the same approach can be used. There will be elderly housing at higher levels with elderly service provisions on lower levels. I think that land premium can be adjusted to attract developers. We've asked developers, they have shown some interest. But if they have to pay land premium, they will not be able to make the project viable. If you can provide concessions in terms of land premium, that may be viable. Land premium concessions is offered for youth hostels. The same can be applied to elderly housing, so that developers will get the incentive to build elderly housing. Ms. Eunice Young, I speak in support of Mr. YICK's motion. We have a rapidly aging population. According to the government, in the coming 2 decades, those over the age of 65 will be over 2.5 million. The current approach will not be able to meet demand. We have gone through significant demographic changes. This council has expressed concern in this regard. In addition, there is a low birth rate. It's very difficult to rely on your family members to take care of elderly people. These significant changes bring changes. But in light of this, we need intergenerational care. It's not just about taking care of your grandparents or your grandchildren. We're talking about mobilizing different generations to be generation inclusive. Elderly people can work as voluntary work in the community or be mentors of children. We see a lot of elderly people working as voluntary workers. They have in their position vast knowledge and experience. We will one day become elderly people. The education level is better nowadays. If elderly people can become mentors of children, I believe that parents would like to see that. How do we enhance the understanding of elderly people in society? I think it's something that we need to work on. Cross-generational inclusiveness is something that other countries have adopted. So, for example, in Japan and in Finland, there are facilities housing children and elderly people. They live alongside one another, keeping each other company. I think this will enhance the physical and mental health of elderly people. It also enhances the social skills of young children. In Singapore, in public housing estates, there are intergenerational facilities encouraging support between generations. With limited resources, it's very difficult to have these facilities covering the entire population. Well, then we're very concerned about the use of germ technology. We have started our work, but there is huge room to for improvement. We have the Innovation and Technology Fund for application of elderly and rehabilitation care. There is a huge room for improvement in terms of services as well as products. Because of insufficient knowledge, a lot of families don't incline to use germ technology. There is a small market. There is insufficient subsidy, funding, and support. I think we need to think harder to promote the use of germ technology in the community. We need to have a promotion plan for the use of technology, intergenerational use. There can be startups, platforms established for elderly people and youngsters to try out these germ technology products. Views can be exchanged. These are opportunities for different generations to exchange views. We can also have pilot locations on housing estates. There can be barrier-free access, remote health monitoring services. Opportunities can be given for the young and the old to take part in activities such as cooking, gardening. When it comes to arts, and culture, I think, elderly people should receive the respect they deserve.
Reverend Peter Kun, President, when we stand at different corners on the street, we will see, for example, white-haired, white-haired elderly walking alone. We can see elderly persons sitting on benches in the park. This shows an aging issue that we're facing, and it also demonstrates the lack of support services. These are the deep-rooted problems that we have. We often stress that we are international metropolis, we are a great city. We should not just focus on our economy. We should not assess our success just based on our GDP. We have to care for the disadvantaged in the society. As a wealthy city, we have the responsibilities and capabilities to create a more elderly-friendly living environment. This is how we can respect our elderly who dedicate their lives to the construction of our city. However, elderly people have to wait a long time before they can receive healthcare services. They come across many difficulties as they try to commute to different places. In order for us to truly improve the living environment for elderly, the government should work on various fronts by being innovative. Health is the cornerstone for an acceptable retirement life. Specialist service is still lacking. The waiting time is long, and the coverage of our primary healthcare service is lacking. All these affect the health of our elderly. I think that the government should create more quotas for specialist doctors. We should expand the coverage of family doctor networks so that the elderly people can receive high-quality healthcare services in time. We should also extend the coverage of mobile healthcare services. I think that the government can learn from Singapore. They have a elderly care fund. They have dedicated projects to cater to the needs of different elderly. This can enhance the independence of the elderly, and this alleviate the burden of our public hospitals. President, community care services is also how we can create an elderly-friendly living environment. Many district health centers focus on organizing traditional activities. They cannot meet the diversified needs of our elderly. I think that the government should consider turning these centers from a venue for activities to a hub for living support to solve issues faced by our elderly people. At the same time, the government can learn from Australia. In July this year, they rolled out a support at home program. They offer a comprehensive and personalized service to their elderly so that they can age at their own place, somewhere that they're familiar with. President, in order to build an elderly-friendly living environment, we cannot rely on measures here and there. We need to have a high-level design and policies from the government. I've asked the government time and again to establish a secretary or deputy secretary for elderly to devise and formulate policies and initiatives for the elderly. However, my suggestions has not been accepted. I hope that the government will reconsider my suggestion by offering more appropriate measures to enhance the quality of life of the elderly so that they can live a dignified and happy life. Mr. Chairman Kwong. President, I support Mr. Frankie YICK's motion and the amendments. We have an aging population, and it's worsening. Elderly account for 1/5 of our population now, but in 2040, it will account for 1/3 of our population. Elderly need respect, care, and dignity. Apart from welfare welfare services. The government has been tapping on the potentials of silver economy. They have launched the Re-employment Allow pilot scheme to subsidize elderly to re-enter the labor force. The government also rolled out 30 measures in 5 different areas under the working group on promoting silver economy. Now, I'd like to focus on how we can create income for elderly, enhance a sense of security for them, and promote intergenerational harmony. First, on how we can accumulate wealth for the elderly, I think that the government should provide tax deductions for Hong Kong MC Retire 3 products. The working group on promoting silver economy launched measures on silver financial and security arrangements. The Hong Kong MC is going to further promote the Hong Kong MC Retire 3. I think that it is time we extend the tax concessions to all plans under Hong Kong Retire 3, including annuity plan, reverse mortgage programs, and provide a tax deduction cap of $100,000. By this, we can encourage our people to save up for their retirement so that they will not rely on public money. Second, the community has been asking the government to improve the MPF scheme. Under the Hong Kong MC3, we already have a reverse mortgage program. If we can allow people to take out their contributions from their MPF to pay for their down payment, then people's financial burden can be alleviated and more people can purchase a property earlier. Also, the government should promote smart household to enhance the sense of security among our elderly. Some members said that in the public rental housing of the Housing Authority, many non-slippery designs were incorporated. In the future, the Housing Bureau should work with NGOs and tertiary institutions to develop more devices such as heat sensory design, fall incident detection systems. We should pilot these technology at some public rental housing. We should also subsidize elderly who live in public rental housing to install these devices so that we can ensure their safety. The government should also foster intergenerational harmony so that the elderly people can live closer to their children. In the future, 5% of the GFA of the public rental housing will be used for social welfare facilities. By this, we can make our elderly feel less lonely. I think the government can take a step forward. I think that the first 3 stories of a public rental housing, they should be used as, say, district health centers or daycare centers. As we all know, we are going to have 1/3 of our population aging over 65 years old. If an entire family can live together, then we can alleviate the manpower burden at the healthcare sector. I think that the government should also raise the parent allowance further. It's impossible for families to live together because our houses are so small. It's impossible for, that's why I think that the government should relax the restrictions by allowing people to claim a higher parent allowance if they live nearby their parents. I so submit. Ms. Nixie Lam. President, I support Mr. Frankie YICK's motion. Figures show that we are facing an aging population. In 2043, 1/3 of our population will be aged over 65 years old. By then, I would be one of the elderly people. The United Nations said that in 2050, we will have the world's oldest population. If we don't plan ahead, then our healthcare system will be saturated and unable to support a population. What's more worrying is a generational gap. Studies show that 35% of young people think that it's not their responsibility to take care of their parents. In the future, we're going to have more elderly singleton. It seems that we will not be able to implement this approach of aging in place, which cannot just rely solely on the elderly care system of the government. To address this problem, we should turn this problem into an opportunity. In order for us to build an elderly-friendly living environment, we should start from urban planning. We should learn from Japan. They have not improved their support system. They offer entrepreneurial support and tax concessions to the elderly so that they will re-enter the labor force. This is exactly our problems. We have to wait some 3.5 years for our elderly care homes and specialist services. The waiting time is just as long. It seems that we are just addressing the problems at the surface level. We cannot just work on social welfare. We have to work on also transport planning. I think that the government should develop a comprehensive population policy so that our city can formulate a very targeted plan. When the housing authority build housing in new development areas, we need to set aside certain units for our elderly. Transport Department, ITIB also have to work on how we can promote our geotechnology and our products and how we can export them to other countries. The elderly people are something that we should treasure. I think that we should promote intergenerational collaboration to rebuild the confidence in our elderly. I think that we should subsidize people aged over 65 to become an entrepreneur so that they will no longer be seen as a burden to the society. President, safeguarding the dignity of our elderly is our bottom line. They contribute their whole lives to the building of our city. Our measures will decide whether they will stay or leave. Thank you.
Mr. Brave Chen. Thank you, President. I also thank the officials for being here. Now I will focus on building an elderly-friendly living environment in terms of accommodation, mobility, diet, and consumption. Now, thank Mr. Frankie YICK for the motion and also the other members for amendments. Now, filial piety and care for the elderly at home and in the community. These are virtues in the Chinese culture that we are proud of. Now, government officials have been attaching a lot of importance to caring for the old. Now, on this premises, we just want to enhance our work. Presidency urges for the country to enhance its work on elderly support. And also in the policy address, the chief executive pledged more resources to enhance elderly services. So for the elderly to enjoy security and a purpose in the future, this encapsulates the entire set of government's elderly policies. So in the council, I see some silver-haired members. I see many young faces. But everyone has a day when we grow old. Now, you may think that you are an old person when you are 70 years old, but after looking at what Trump does, we know that you can be very active in your 70s. So we hope we can still contribute to our families and society. There are many elderly people who are enjoying themselves to the full. They even contribute to society by doing volunteer works. But still, they need care because, like children, elderly people have their special needs in terms of physical and mental needs. So by way of figures, by 2033, 1/3 of our population will be elderly people. In 2050, we may become the oldest place in the world. We need to offer more choices to the elderly people. That includes care facilities, sharing technology products. They should be allowed to choose whether they retire in Hong Kong or in the Bay Area. Now, I have joined Mr. Sun's delegation to Zhongshan. We saw a lot of care homes right next to residential areas where their families live in. Now, this may be a very good example. Now, in Hong Kong, some families live very close to the elderly care homes. It would facilitate visitation. So the Labor and Welfare Bureau and the Development Bureau should consciously include these elements when we design our housing projects. I remember when I joined the delegation to the mainland, led by Mr. Sun, we saw a very posh wheelchair. And there are also exoskeleton products, like those used in the army. Now, with that exoskeleton, you can lift very heavy weights. Now, these are all products which may benefit our elderly residents. I think we should think how we can provide more support for elderly people to take care of themselves and enjoy themselves when we formulate every policy measures. Thank you. Mr. Yim Kong. President, Hong Kong's population structure is continuously aging. That is a great stumbling block for high-quality development. It has become a major societal issue which the government must face. Now, the ratio of population aged above 60 is 24%, and there's 1.7 million people who age 60 or above. Now, with the aging population, we are spending more and more resources on elderly care. The financial burden is heavy. I support Mr. Frankie YICK's motion. We urge the government to continue to pay attention to this worrying trend and build a living environment fit for the elderly. Now, many of our elderly persons originate from Guangdong and Fujian. Many of them would like to return to their hometown to spend their twilight years. Now, we all know that the property market has slumped in the mainland. The government may consider purchasing a batch of vacant properties in second-tier cities in the Bay Area to allow elderly people living in the public housing estates to choose voluntarily to move to these areas and enjoy a better quality of life. Now, for example, in Huidong, a 600 square feet large flat has dropped by 16% in terms of property value compared with the peak. Now it costs some 250,000 RMB only. Now, compared with the cost in building a PRH flat in Hong Kong, that's 900,000 Hong Kong dollars. For example, the light public housing projects in Kai Tak, $2.3 billion have been spent, but the projects will only last 5 years. It will cost the government a lot just to demolish the project. Now, if the government can purchase 10,000 flats in Huidong with the same amount of money, that's equivalent to building 10,000 PRH units in Hong Kong. Now, we can exchange tenancy in Hong Kong with home ownership in the Bay Area. That would allow elderly people to live in dignity while greatly shortening the turnaround time of PRH allocation in Hong Kong. We can also provide more housing opportunities for those really in need. That's a bargain from every angle. Now, we need to pay attention to the healthcare needs of the elderly population as well. The government has expanded the use of healthcare voucher to GBA cities. The elderly people really feel the government's love. We hope that this scheme can be further extended to more cities in the mainland so as to meet the healthcare needs of elderly persons. Now, in November 2024, the government has launched the pilot scheme on cross-boundary emergency vehicle services, but it only covers the Shenzhen University of Hong Kong Hospital and another hospital in Macau. We hope that this scheme can be extended to more hospitals in other GBA cities. Under emergencies, emergency vehicles should be allowed to cross the boundary and transport the patients directly to our hospitals. This will create more favorable conditions for retirements in the GBA. I so submit to support the motion and the amendments. Mr. Ben Chang. Thank you, President. I really like Mr. Frankie YICK's motion. He approached the issue from a macro planning perspective. There's also proposal to develop the silver economy to make Hong Kong one of the most elderly-friendly cities in the world. Now, it involves many areas. When it comes to elderly friendliness, environment is very important. After all, elderly people spend most of the time in their own neighborhood. So that guidelines include indoor and outdoor areas. Now, in terms of indoor space planning, we have some redeveloped and new development areas. Now, for new development areas, of course, there are a lot of elderly-friendly features incorporated. But we also have a lot of old areas. We need to modify it to fit the needs of elderly people. First, mobility safety. If the environment is risky, it may cause injuries to the elderly people. For young people, a fall is nothing, but for the elderly, a fall may mean hospitalization. So we need to identify potential risk which may cause elderly people to fall. I've received some complaints concerning tactile tiles in housing estates. When it rains, these tactile guidance paths are slippery. So my ward office has conducted some tests on those tactile pavements. We found that they were really risky. So besides removing those tiles, can we modify them to make it less slippery? So we have engaged an expert who sprays some coating on the tactile pavements to make it less slippery. So I thank the housing authority for helping us to engage those experts. So by identifying the risk and modifying it a bit, we can make society and community environments much safer for the elderly people. So I urge everyone to identify potential risks for the elderly and rectify them. Now, in terms of mobility, when we grow old, we become less mobile. Now, there are lots of housing estates which are built on hilly terrain. For example, in my constituency, the Stanley estate. The whole estate spans across the entire hilly area. In the past, there were no escalators. We had to brave the stairs. It was fine when we were young, but when we grow old, that would be a huge challenge. So we need more barrier-free facilities in these housing estates. I know the government has been doing its best, but it takes time and resources to conduct these projects. As we have mentioned in the previous motion, there are always debates whether some projects should be taken forward. Now, since our population is aging, we should give more priority to these livelihood projects. Barrier-free access and upslope escalators. Some of these projects have not started after years of debates. Of course, the major obstacle is money. For example, the long flights of stairs leading to Yunlai Estate. These projects are given very low priority, but in fact, they are important barrier-free features for elderly residents. So even with the tight fiscal position, we hope that we can attach importance to these projects to make our community elderly friendly. A small improvement is huge. Mr. Perry, you.
Mr. President, an aging population is a difficulty faced by many cities. According to the Census and Statistics Department, over 35% of the population by 2043 will be elderly. There will be pressure on our economic structure as well as social welfare. The design of a city is expected to improve. The government's policy is one that is aging in place as the core, with institutional care as backup. Elderly people would like to retire at home. We need to create an elderly-friendly living environment. This will give elderly people autonomy, and it's something that the government should continue to work on. On this topic, I agree with what Mr. Ben Chen said. When I was serving in the district council, my constituency was lumped in. A lot of residential complexes are built on a hill. Elderly people find it difficult to move about. They would like to maybe take a rest or halfway through their journey, but there is nowhere to sit. We can maybe put some covering on the side for them to sit, or to conduct improvement works to make the pavement smoother and non-slip. In addition, we can have lifts built. In 2012, there was the Universal Accessibility Program. Footbridges, tunnels, subways are installed with lifts. It's greatly appreciated by tourists, especially those with families, young children. We have done well in this regard. Of course, we can always do better. We need to create a better environment for the elderly so that they can live comfortably and are willing to stay active. This is conducive to the development of the silver economy. In the 2023 policy address, the chief executive talked about legislative amendments to incorporate elderly-friendly building design in a lot of facilities and buildings. These measures, together with agile technology measures, will enhance elderly's ability to take care of themselves. It also encouraged them to be mobile, and this is conducive to the development of our tourism. Elderly people are an important target group. They may have specific needs in terms of accommodation, itinerary, etc. The government needs to encourage our sector to create silver hair products, to provide support to barrier-free access and locations so that tourist spots, attractions will not be a barrier for people to access, so that it'll be easy for elderly people to move about, and Hong Kong can be built into a barrier-free tourism destination. Mrs. Regina Ip. President, we are both elderly people. You may remember an award-winning Japanese movie winning the Palme d'Or award. It's a movie about elderly people being carried to the hill to die. Naraya Bashiko. Well, we see that members are members care a lot about elderly people. None of them said that legislators over the age of 70 should not continue to serve. Well, what is the definition of elderly people? There is no standardized definition. Some people think that those who are above 60 should enjoy the $2 transport scheme. Well, when you're a security guard, you can work till you're in your 70s. If you're a taxi driver, you're still working in your 70s or 80s. The government has not set a definition of elderly person. Say, for example, OALA is 65 and OH allowance is 70. When it comes to the civil service, if you're under the new scheme, then you can work till you're 65. Well, secretaries will know that a lot of colleagues who have retired at the age of 60 continue to look for employment. When it comes to formulating policies for the elderly, perhaps you need to tell the community what is the age threshold to become an elderly person. Well, but some people are still in fine fettles when they're in their 70s or 80s, so age should not be the standard. There are people who are still very active, dancing, traveling, eating, going to clubs. I think for the elderly people, employment is very important because it gives you a sense of dignity. When I hike, I see a lot of elderly people working as cleaners. They're clearing branches. I feel sorry for them because they do not have technology to help them. They just use old-fashioned brooms and carts to clear the path. We now advocate the use of gerund technology. Perhaps we can ask contractors of LCSDs to provide better equipment for elderly people who work for them. There is another thing. Well, the New People's Party is the first party that advocates a silver economy. We said that elderly people should not be seen as a burden. They are resources. There are lots of elderly people who are wise, experienced, and they can continue to make contributions. There are elderly people who have a lot of savings. They have very strong spending power. There are also elderly people who continue to serve in public organizations. The government can do better with their explaining. First, who are elderly people? How they should be treated. In addition to providing elderly-friendly designs, we need to take care of their mental health as well. Well, advice should be given for them to continue to do physical exercise and take care of themselves. Mr. Sun is here. I think he will hear us. I agree with what Mr. Eric Yim said. Well, we need to provide the option for elderly people to retire on the mainland. Mr. Stephen Ho. I thank Mr. Yik for moving the motion. The motion talked about urban planning, aging population, that Hong Kong will have the oldest population in the world. And I agree with what another member said. A panel on food and environmental hygiene with Mr. Tommy Cheung as the chairperson is a panel that talked about contract out services. The administration said that they don't just choose the one with the lowest bid, and proper equipment is provided to them. I do think that we need to improve the employment market for elderly people. I'm not saying that is the mentality of the government. There is a view in society that elderly people are a burden. However, we need to redefine various facilities, transport, and employment. We talk about universal accessibility. We see an aging in the workforce in different sectors, one of which is the agri and fish sector. I think some traditional trades are neglected. Peer facilities are not elderly friendly. When there are voices asking for waterfront promenade, some landing locations will be closed off. So if you want to board a vessel, then you will have to climb over a rail. Well, whether the location is legal or not, it's been in use for over a century. Even if you close them off, you still see people in their 80s and 90s climbing over railings to board a vessel. When we talk about universal accessibility, you only think about lifts and escalators. What about fishermen? Every time I meet with fishermen groups, there are a few of them who are bandaged because they have fallen and injured. I asked the LCSD not to be calcified. When consultation is conducted, perhaps consult niche groups. Maybe in a district there are just 200 to 300 vessels. You need to consider whether landing facilities are enough. We started talking about it in the days of Mrs. Carrie Lam, and it's still unresolved. There are revamping projects of piers. They are in the pipeline for decades. We have endorsed a number of these projects, but they have been in the pipeline for years. Well, it's not just about usage. There are locations with a low utilization rate, but that is the only facility available for that location. Well, it may be a pier that existed since the Qing dynasty. Perhaps the government can't subsume these facilities. I asked the government to take stock of facilities that have not been subsumed under the management of the government. Also, review the priority of projects so that elderly people will find it easier to find employment.
Mr. Paul Chair, the 14th this month, there was a 17-year-old elderly man at YICK Estate and Shed Lake 1 Estate. There was an 83-year-old man who became the headline of a newspaper. They live on their own. One of them lost their life because of lack of help. Given the low birth rate, aging population, and the trend of people emigrating abroad, more and more people who are elderly they care for another elder. The Health Bureau and the Labor and Welfare Bureau talked about a scheme helping low-income carers. I welcome this scheme and hope that no such tragedy would happen again. I think that the scheme should be extended to elderly receiving old age living allowance, not just low-income carers. Many people have talked about silver economy. This term has been used in the motion as well, but that builds upon financial freedom of our economy, of our elderly. I hope that our elderly can retire based on the assets that they have. And I've been asking the government to allow people to take out their contributions from the MPF scheme to settle their down payment. Without a property, people cannot take out reverse mortgage program. Professor Priscilla also talked about this reverse mortgage program. For a senior person with a property valued at $8 million, they receive a monthly income of $24,000. Mr. Choi Lan was able to retire on the income generated from his property. People can join the reverse mortgage program even if they have a home that worth only $1 million. This is like what Mr. Choi Lam did. I'd like to talk about the tax concessions for cross-boundary elderly care scheme. Many people have been retiring on the mainland. When they do so, they can receive medical services there. I hope that their children can also enjoy a parent allowance even if their parents retire on the mainland. President, I'd also like to talk about something other than money. Elderly care is not just about financials. They need to have the support of their family. Some hundreds of thousands of people have moved abroad As a result, many elderly have to live alone in their homes. Creating a favorable atmosphere is very important. We have to create a society that is free so that people who have moved abroad would come back and take care of their parents. It's important for the elderly to be able to talk to someone. Sometimes children of elderly were not able to come back even when their parents passed away. I'd also like to talk about this aging in place concept. Many people think that they should not pass away in their homes because that's unlucky. However, a property's value will not go down just because an elderly passed away in their home. We have a movie called The Last Dance. The actors in the movie retired and passed away in their home, and that was not seen as unlucky. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Frankie YICK may now speak on the amendment. President, I thank Mr. Bill Tang, Stanley Lee, and Mr. Tommy CHEUNG for enriching my motion. All the amendments are in line with my motion. Now, I propose making reference to the WHO's Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide. The amendments also suggest referring to the opinions of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the States Council on strengthening the work on the elderly in the new era, and also the opinions of the General Office on developing the silver economy and improving the well-being of the elderly of our country. Now, all these three papers seek to enhance the living standard by meeting the needs of the growing elderly population. So the Liberal Party supports making reference to the two other papers as well. Now, with the population aging, the elderly population will become the major consumer group. They are also the most important pillar of our economy in the future. So we should incorporate elderly-friendly designs in our town planning design, including public transport interchange, waiting areas, bus stops, and so on. Ramps, leaning benches, and the slippery pavement should be implemented. We need to make the living environment suitable for the elderly. Now, with this technology era, we need to adopt modern technology products. We need to make the elderly's home smart by installing anti-falling and collision sensors. Medical devices can help elderly people manage their health. Living in safety and in health will also lessen the burden on our public health care system. However, many elderly people are hesitant in embracing technologies. The government needs to help bridge this digital gap. Now, the four-tier supporting framework, including accommodation, neighborhood, community, and social welfare professionalism, I fully support the idea. We have been urging the housing authority to let families live closer together so that family members can care for their old. There are more and more single and double-ton elderly people in Hong Kong. There are district care teams for helping with their daily needs. But if we can foster better neighborhood relations, that would be even better because they can offer immediate help. So we should continue to promote neighborhood care. Now, for Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's proposal to promote soft meals, I fully support it. Now, some singleton and doubleton households are unable to cook for themselves, so it would be better if there are soft meals provided in our restaurants. Thank you.
Secretary for Development. President, I thank the members who have spoken. I thank them for their valuable views. The topic, creating an elderly-friendly living environment, spans over many different policy bureaus and require our collaboration. I am going to speak in terms of building design and planning. I'll also reply to issues brought up by members. In terms of land planning, we have to actively farm land to ensure that there is sufficient land to take care of the needs of our society. That includes providing a wide range of accommodation options to build hospitals, primary health care, community care service for the elderly, as well as support services. We have already added the planning standard for elderly service based on population in the Hong Kong Planning and Standard Guidelines. The aim is that when we plan for new development areas as well as redevelopment of old areas, we will reserve land for facilities such as residential care homes and daycare center for the elderly. To ensure service quality, we ensure we have put down the floor area requirement of these facilities. If there is sufficient land, the requirements, the provision ratios may be improved in the future. Since 2020, we have earmarked in public housing projects 5% of residential floor area for social welfare use, so that in a residential complex, there will be residential care homes for the elderly and district elderly community centers, etc. In relation to dedicated accommodation for the elderly, the Housing Society has done really well. The government provides land for them to build senior citizen residences. The latest project is in Fanling Park Wall Road. It will be completed this year. In terms of private housing, we make use of waiving land premium as well as floor areas to encourage developers to set aside space for welfare service. In terms of town planning, there is a term called a government institution and community, GIC. We have increased the target provision of GIC facilities to 3.5 square meters per capita. The standard for open space is also increased from 2 square meters per capita to 3.5 square meters per capita. The increase is not just to improve the livability of Hong Kong as a city. The increase also provides more space for elderly people to undertake recreational activities. We will continue to enhance existing guidelines, say, for example, to provide more space for intergenerational recreational areas, facilities, as well as open space. In the design of community, we are concerned about incorporating accessibility elements into the facilities. Say, for example, installation of handrails, non-slip tiles, and at suitable locations provide sufficient and comfortable seating. All these aim to provide an elderly-friendly living environment. When we plan for new development areas, we talk about a 15-minute living community. This concept is actually related to mobility. We want to locate venues with a high footfall, such as public service, social welfare and health facilities, open space, train stations, and PTIs within 500 meters of residential areas. This is a modern planning concept. It meets the needs of our elderly citizens. Members talked about a number of issues. In addition to improving our public facilities, what about the private sector? Well, to support aging in place, the Chief Executive announced in the 2023 policy address that the DFS Deputy Financial Secretary is in charge of coordinating with policy bureaus to formulate elderly-friendly building design. Well, last year, a series of suggestions have been announced. Say, for example, the improvement of accessibility, the adoption of design adaptability, the improvement of a sense of well-being, and the adoption of general technology in Internet of Things. In the past few months, we have been consulting stakeholders. We are going to announce the final proposal. We will, by phases, implement these measures. And these are my reply in relation to land planning as well as design. We'll continue with our work.
Under Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, President, I thank Mr. Frankie YICK for moving his motion, and also Mr. Tommy CHEUNG, Stanley Lee, and Mr. Bill Tang for their amendments, as well as the invaluable views from other members who have spoken. Faced with the new trend of a growing elderly population, it is a belief that it is necessary to build an elderly-friendly living environment to care for the needs of the elderly people and also promote the development of the silver economy. Among the 30 measures published by the Working Group on Promoting Silver Economy in May this year, many of the measures are for promoting the living quality of the elderly as well as promoting economic development. Many of these measures are jointly implemented by many policy bureaus and their partner institutions. I agree with the proposals made by Mr. Bill Tang and Mr. Stanley Lee that we should build a barrier-free environment and also include elderly-friendly elements and technology into town planning designs. With our effort, the Hong Kong Quality Assurance Agency has launched the Hong Kong Registration Silver Friendly Series in May this year. It is a set of standards from the perspective of the silver consumers for more products, services, and consumption environments fitting for silver consumers. In particular, in relation to elderly-friendly venues, the registration plan encourages enterprises to incorporate elderly-friendly elements into venue planning and construction. Accredited venues will be awarded a label so that elderly people and their carers can identify accredited elderly-friendly venues. Concerning soft meal, mentioned by Mr. Tommy CHEUNG, this is also one of our key policies. With our efforts, many chain caterers have responded to our policy by launching soft meals and care food of different flavors. They have been well received by consumers. Under the Friends and Flavors campaign, more than 100 catering outlets have been offering discounts to elderly consumers starting from July. They also offer dishes which are healthier and easier to chill with lighter portion. Now, together with the HKCSS, we have been promoting the concepts of care food in the community. We have been reaching out to industry and business bodies to encourage more prepackaged food which cater to elderly's needs and taste. The food manufacturing business and the retail sector have been responding to our call proactively by developing more prepackaged food with better taste, nutrition content, and attractiveness. Publicity and education is also important. As at June this year, the Hong Kong Customs and Excise Department has held 5 seminars at different elderly care centers, and also they have briefed 2 care teams on consumer protection in relation to elderly people. The customs will continue to spread the message of smart consumption and encourage a good consumption environment for elderly consumers. The CEDB has been actively promoting the trade to develop, formulate, and apply silver product and service standards or guidelines by harnessing our testing technologies and our professional certification advantage. We encourage service providers to provide more quality options for the silver consumers. Last November, in the presence of the Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration, the HKCSS and the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong have entered into a GBA Care Food Standard memorandum. For early inclusion on the list, when the GBA standard is launched, those care food businesses on the list can enjoy a head start in the market. Once again, I thank member for your invaluable views. We will continue to encourage more quality choices for elderly persons. We will encourage the business sector to participate in more certification program for silver products, services, and venues. I so submit. Thank you.
Undersecretary for Health. President, I thank the members for their comments just now. After listening to them, I'm of a feeling that we are all equally concerned about medical services for the elderly, policies and measures. I will summarize the policies and work implemented by the government in the area of medical services. The World Health Organization's Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide point out that population aging is a global trend. In terms of community health services, providing diverse, convenient, and affordable medical and support services for the elderly is particularly important for maintaining their health, independence, and active lifestyles. Hong Kong faces the challenge of an increasingly aging population. The government is implementing a series of measures to optimize medical resources and strive to provide high-quality medical services for the elderly and the general public that are promoting their health and quality of life. The Health Bureau is actively developing primary health services to achieve the policy goal of early detection and early treatment. Through the 18 district health centers or district health center express across the territory, people can access convenient and affordable medical services. The Chronic Disease Co-Care Pilot Scheme launched offer convenient screening services for diabetes, hypertension, as well as lipid tests. This program enables eligible people, including the elderly, to undergo early chronic disease screening, systemic health assessment, and receive continuous preventative care, thereby assisting them in managing their chronic disease risk factors. These services adhere to the principle of prevention-oriented, community-based, strengthening the family doctor network and implementing the family for doctor for all approach to provide continuous health management services for the elderly. In addition, the Community Family Program to be launched will make it easier for the elderly and the rest of the members of the public to obtain medications. As for government outpatient services, they serve as an important social safety net, focusing on ensuring access to medical care for the elderly and the disadvantaged, ensuring that they receive appropriate care. The government also provides diverse medical services for the elderly. The Hospital Authority currently operates an elderly appointment quotas at general outpatient clinics and provides enhanced transitional comprehensive support services for the elderly with high risk of readmission. For high-risk elderly patients, the Hospital Authority established a patient support call center to provide telephone support services. Traditional Chinese medicine services have been very popular among the elderly. The government provide subvented traditional Chinese medicine outpatient services to eligible Hong Kong residents through the 18 traditional Chinese medicine clinics. We also have this community dental support program that offers subsidized dental services to elderly individuals and the disadvantaged. Under the Chronic Disease Co-Care Pilot Scheme, participants, including the elderly, can access more comprehensive chronic disease management plans through dedicated nurse clinics and specialized medical services, including optometrists, physical therapists, nutritionists, and podiatrists with the network, enabling early prevention of chronic diseases and reduction of related complications. The Elderly Healthcare Voucher Scheme encourages the elderly to choose appropriate private medical services in their own communities. The Health Bureau will continue to optimize the scheme to better support the healthcare needs of Hong Kong elderly who live in the Greater Bay Area. the government has launched the Elderly Healthcare Voucher Greater Bay Area pilot scheme to expand the scope of medical vouchers to eligible healthcare institutions within the Greater Bay Area. The goal is to achieve full coverage across the 9 mainland cities in the Greater Bay Area, enabling eligible seniors to use medical vouchers at a total of 21 service points within the Greater Bay Area. 2 new service points in Foshan began operation today, bringing the total number of service points in the mainland within the Greater Bay Area up to 15. The remaining 6 service points are expected to gradually commission by the end of this year. The aging population poses significant challenges to our healthcare system. In light of this, the government launched the Primary Healthcare Blueprint in 2022, shifting the focus of our system from treatment to disease prevention, promoting preventative care and primary healthcare service to establish a sustainable healthcare system, which is in line with the direction set out in the Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide. The blueprint identifies the Life Course Prevention Care Plan as one of its key initiatives, offering services such as guidance on healthy lifestyles, vaccination information and education, screening for chronic diseases and cancer. These services aim to help people manage their health from a young age, thereby promoting healthy aging for all in the long run. The Health Bureau will continue these efforts to enhance the overall health of the population. Thank you, President.
Secretary for Labor and Welfare. President, once again, I thank the mover, Mr. Frankie YICK, the amenders, Mr. Bill Tang, Mr. Stanley Lee, and Mr. Tommy CHEUNG. When it comes to elderly-friendly living environment, it has attracted a lot of attention. A number of members have spoken. I would like to take this opportunity to give a brief reply on 3 areas that is related to social welfare. I would provide my reply from different perspectives. For elderly people, the most important issue is that for those who are active, to provide them with an environment conducive to active aging. Every 3 in 4 elderly people receive various subsidy. When we think about the social welfare department, then you think about a government department that is working behind a desk. But we have very close relationship with banks. Every day we give out about $1.5 million to a large, about $3,000 to 1.5 million elderly people. There are about 200 elderly centers. They may be neighborhood centers or district elderly centers. All these serve to expand elderly people's network to reduce the sense of loneliness. We also encourage elderly people who can work to work. We have launched a pilot scheme for re-employment. We provide subsidies. There are about 23,000 cases that are working. Over a quarter of these cases involve people who are above the age of 60. A number of members talk about germ technology. What is something that only came into existence a few years ago. Over the years, the government organized expos, and on 2 occasions, the government has injected altogether $2 billion into the Innovation and Technology Fund for application in elderly and rehabilitation care. The next step is to step up promotion so that elderly people and people with disabilities will know to find a way to benefit from it. We also need to make better use of local INT enterprises and those on the mainland. What we do is that local enterprises will conduct R&D and commercialize their projects. on the mainland, I&T enterprises have huge potential. We want to make Zhejiang technology more reachable. We now, under the Innovation and Technology Fund, enable procurement, rental, and trial of Zhejiang technology products for use at home. Not long ago, we have launched a pilot scheme under which the data of the Hospital Authority and SWD are consolidated. We've started off with about 8,000 to 9,000 households with elderly people. Very soon, data with elderly singleton and couples of the Housing Authority will be made available so that care teams can visit them. There are about 200,000 households. I think this is a direct assistance to households in need. We have, on a pilot basis, identified Kwun Tong and Sha Tin. In Kwun Tong district alone, we reckon there are about over 11,000 households. In Sha Tin, close to 5,000. So the two pilot locations alone gives us this amount of households. We have preliminary worked out the priority. We focus first on households with people over the age of 75 before we work on other households. We'll all work together to create an elderly-friendly environment. Thank you.
I now call upon Mr. Bill Tang to move an amendment. President, I move my amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Bill Tang's amendment be passed. With those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present, that I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Stanley Lee, as the previous amendment is passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Stanley Lee's further amendment be passed. With those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Tommy CHEUNG, as the previous amendments are passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's further amendment be passed. With those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Frankie YICK, you still have 49 seconds to reply, then the debate will come to a close. Mr. Frankie YICK. President, I thank the 37 members who have spoken on my motion. They have raised a lot of constructive views. I hope that the government will take on board views raised today to tackle the issue of aging population in Hong Kong and build a living environment that is elderly friendly. We need to enhance the sense of happiness and security of elderly people in Hong Kong. I hope members will support my motion. I put the question to you that Mr. Frankie YICK's motion, as amended by Mr. Bill Tang, Mr. Stanley Lee, and Mr. Tommy CHEUNG, be passed. With those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the motion as amended passed. The Council is now adjourned to 11 a.m. on the 23rd of July this year.